I'm not kidding.
Okay.
No?
Yep.
Okay. In 3, 2, 1.
Good morning. This is the Board of County Commissioners agenda setting. This is a regular meeting. It is Tuesday, May 16th, 2023. It is 9:22 a.m. The session is set to go until 12:15 today. This is a hybrid meeting. We're at 3000 Pacific Avenue, room 110. For public virtual attendance, you may follow along on the Thurston County YouTube channel. I'm Carolina Mejia. I'm the chair of the board. To my left is Vice Chair, to my right is Vice Chair Ty Menser. To my left is Commissioner Gary Edwards. Also in the boardroom, we have County Manager Ramiro Chavez, as well as two Assistant County Managers, Robin Campbell and Assistant County Manager Rob Gilbert. We also have guests today. We have Auditor Mary Hall, as well as her staff joining us for a topic on number 2.
Yeah, great one.
Okay. So with that, we'll start with homeless strategies, or would you like to start with?
No,
grade one?
homeless strategies, and I believe my request to the board last week was to have those updates on a monthly basis. And I believe you wanted to have one more update today.
Yes.
And so Keely can go through that process. If the board concurs with my suggestion, then we'll bring this item in a monthly basis for your update.
Thank you. And the reason I wanted for a homeless strategies update this week too, before we go on to a monthly basis, was because there was a request from the Regional Housing Council last Wednesday, and so, but I'll let Keely do her update and then I can touch on that, or she can, however. Go ahead, Keely.
All right, thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Keely Marino with Thurston County Public Health and Social Services. Some updates for you. One, we did declare a brief hazardous weather event for the sudden heat. We declared it for Sunday and Monday. By that, I mean we had extra survival supplies going out into encampments through shelter-in-place activities, as well as Sergio's Place being open on Sunday and Monday between the hours of 1 to 7. Which was unique because at this time, Sergio's is only open from Tuesday until Friday on a weekly basis, and it's a brand new location. So they did have a small show of individuals getting out of the heat on those 2 days, but it was a test run for that location, and it was successful. And we're ready for the summer, I hope. Moving on, Department of Commerce has issued some updates on the funding situation for homeless services. So as we've spoken about, the document recording fees revenue has been significantly impacted by interest rates being high and households not selling or not refinancing their homes at the rate that they have been through the pandemic. And so we were looking at a pretty significant decrease in funds able to be spent towards or awarded towards agencies that could be addressing homeless response strategies, be that shelter or outreach or rapid rehousing, et cetera. Legislation through the legislative session that ended in the end of April, there were 4 specific provisos around backfilling those funds that either were impacted by those decrease in revenues or were sunsetted funding sources. So that would be the shelter program grant, which sunsetted here. It will be sunsetting in June 30th, as well as the emergency solution grants COVID, which will be diminished by the end of June as well. So we are working really hard to meet Commerce's request to come up with a budget to identify what gaps there are with those sunsetting funds, as well as with the diminished revenue streams through document recording fees, returning that spreadsheet into them with our budget request by next Wednesday, which is a very heavy lift. And we should be receiving all of the numbers and our total amount of funding to be awarded, hopefully at the beginning of June, so that we can continue awarding or making recommendations for awards. So typically we would have those recommendations before the end of May. But unfortunately, we will not know what our total amount is to award until the beginning of June. And so we'll be moving as quickly and swiftly as possible to make sure that we can make those recommendations before contracts must begin on July 1. So it's a very swift and very unusual circumstance for our homeless services funds in particular. But we're working as fast and as diligently as we can, and we've alerted the Homeless Services Advisory Board of these delays, and they're prepared to make recommendations once we know the full funding award amounts. And with that, I'm happy to turn it over to you, Commissioner Mejia.
Thank you, Keely. Another big part of the conversation was in regards to how we approved basically the policy really was under City of Olympia's policy for these two advisory groups to be either opt-in to getting paid or opt out, you know, but the policy for the City of Olympia does not cover them going over grants. And so while they're reviewing 50 applications for grants, are not getting paid for that time or the time that they're grading it. And so the City of Olympia has been impacted as well with just different factors of this policy and trying to include these two new advisory groups. And so there was a lot of conversation on this at the Regional Housing Council on how we can move forward. There was a recommendation made to the board to either one, contract a third party to be able to kind of take this over, or two, for the county to be able to take it over. And I supported that just because if you've gone through any kind of grant application process and reviewing different grants, it takes over an hour each grant. And, these advisory committees that we've set up, we said that they would be paid for the meetings, but the policy, of course, does not cover the grant process. And so one of the things that was recommended was maybe instead of like an hourly basis, right? Because we can't really track when someone's working on a grant application at home, is maybe per application basis. So 20 or 15 or 20 for each application. Not sure how that's structured. I don't think there was any settlement on that, but to look for a different avenue for these two advisory groups to fall under, to be basically paid. And so this is, Keely, I'm not sure if did I cover that correctly?
Yes, and I think I would just expound a little bit on City of Olympia. So they just are, we thought it would be really easy, and City of Olympia staff did as well, to like move the stipends for the advisory boards who chose to accept them, which actually is only a handful of the advisory members at this time. But it became a little bit more complicated because the City of Olympia's City Council did not move to appoint them. So they weren't City of Olympia appointed advisory board members. So it became an issue of individual contracts and treating each of the folks that receive stipends as a contractee. And so when we're talking about the amount of time that some of these individuals have spent in reading 25 applications and scoring them appropriately, like, is there a possibility of also providing a stipend for that outside work, which is just extraordinary, which is only once every 2 years, essentially, outside of the occasional random RFP. And so the Commissioner Mejia already stated what some of the ideas were, either that contract through a third party, or if perhaps the county's home fund, finding a way to move the stipends just in general through a different process to just make it a little less complicated.
I would be happy to work with public health and our internal auditor on a proper way to process payments for a short time amount of work, because I'm not aware of any county policy that allows that.
So therefore, like, that was kind of the suggestion of, I know that there's not a county policy, and kind of that's what we ran into last time. So is there, could we create a policy as the board, option one, or look for a third party who'd be able to handle this because it would be additional workload for public health. Is there a way to look for a third party to be able to handle this?
I'm sorry, for the third party to be able to handle the distribution of the stipend?
Yes, the distribution of the stipends is.
No,
Yeah, that
I
seems to
would
be
be
more
happy to
complicated.
work with public health and find some options.
Yeah, I think,
Some
I think
legit
I
options.
think I understand the issue is, there is a need perhaps to compensate those individuals with the subcommittees of the RHC for going what it calls above and beyond their regular meetings to review the applications, how we compensate it.
But that's just one process. I mean, the city of Olympia will basically, they will no longer be under the city of Olympia's policy. And so they will not be getting paid for the
Right.
meetings from now forward, right, until we find, and I'm looking at Keely. Correct, Keely? That's basically, it's not just for the grant process, but it's basically from now forward.
Yes, there's also the payments through the city of Olympia are only quarterly versus, monthly. And again, this is a very small number of people. And, so it's not tons of money or there's not a lot
The amount of
happening.
money is not the issue.
Right.
Let us work on the process and bring a proposal to the board. Will that work?
Are there any questions from the board on what we've just relayed?
Well, I don't know if I have a question, but my concern is that we continue to encourage people coming from all over the United States, and we do not prioritize any of our spending to our local folks that have fallen on hard times, and that continues to be my concern as to when.
Questions, Commissioner Munster?
I don't think so.
Okay. Thank you, Keely.
Thank you.
So just to confirm, so the regular updates will be on a monthly basis, commissioners, will that be okay?
That'll be fine.
Thank you.
Thank you, Keely.
Okay. Next is REIT 1 fund.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. The reason this is up on your agenda, you have received significant public testimony related to the REIT 1.
Can I interrupt you, County Manager? Would it be okay if, like Keely has the option, if there's breaking development, she comes in on a particular off-cycle.
There's always that
first thing Tuesday
opportunity. Yeah,
morning, We kind of leave that.
Yep.
I
okay.
mean, it doesn't have to be on the agenda, but I just, these, in this field, it's just things happen fast and can happen unexpectedly. And this is the best place for the board to get oriented as to what's going on. And
Certainly, there is always that opportunity, Commissioner. We'll
I'm
make
good
sure
with
that
kind of
happens.
schedule it monthly.
Monthly or as needed basis, as needed. Thank you. Related to the REIT 1, you have received significant public testimony related mainly to whether we have capacity in the REIT 1 fund this year to cover the payment of the loan of $5.6 million, as well as the obligation of the bond. And the payment of the loan for the Monmouth purchase, including the interest. So you have the team here from Financial Services, the auditor's office, as well as Robin. And the answer to that question is yes, we will have enough capacity this year to cover the expenses for the payment of the loan interest, as well as the obligation of the bond for the courthouse campus. And I'd just like for you to hear that confirmation from the team, if I may.
Sure, we don't typically monitor this fund, but we looked at the cash in there this morning. Keep in mind that REIT is funded on a daily basis because it's real estate transactions, right? So some are, of course, revenue increases. We expect that there will be adequate funding when that comes due, which I believe is the end of June.
So in the second question that I'd like for you to hear is the difference between the monthly cash balance report that you receive on a monthly basis versus the annual fund balance report. Is two fundamental different reports that we provide. Can you explain the difference? Mary?
Sure, so a cash report is simply that, it's cash in all of the funds. And I know, Commissioner Mejia, I send you every month revenue and expenditures report. But the reports with fund balances, that's generated once a year. And the difference in those reports is the fund balance report that we generate annually includes all of the liabilities as well, so all of the debt. So those are two separate reports. You get the expense revenue report monthly. We also generate a cash report, which I know has been requested recently from John. So that's the difference. The cash report does not include any debt, and the fund balance report is only created on an annual basis. Our system simply, it's more complex. So it's not something that our system can generate on an annual basis, nor is it required by law.
On a monthly basis.
I mean, on a monthly basis. So we create that on an annual basis, and it's not required to be generated on a monthly basis, and that's not a practice that counties do, just because of the complexity of the report. You have any questions? We can get into the weeds if you'd like.
This really, for me, want to make sure that you have that information related to the capacity of the REIT one fund to meet the obligations of the expenditures this year as presented by Robin. And also the difference between the annual ending fund balance report and the monthly cash balance report that you receive.
Questions?
Will we be able to get those, the annual one just comes out annually?
Yeah, we do provide that to you during the budget process.
But we don't
Have
get it.
that.
Yeah.
Pardon?
You have that.
We
Yeah,
provide
so
that.
we get that annually, and the other one we can now at least get monthly.
I sent to you the
You
cash
do
balance
get
Yeah,
it
report
every
on a
and
month
that'll
monthly
already.
be
basis.
something that we're gonna get.
No,
Already
you have
do.
been getting those.
Yes, you
I
do
should-
get it
I-
monthly.
I send this to you on a monthly basis.
Well, I know you did recently. I didn't know we got it before. We
So
were
I send,
getting it
I
before?
I send those to you on a monthly basis.
Over the last couple of years, you've been doing that?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. I've got a question maybe for Mary, I guess. Being we're talking about this issue brought forward, mainly by Mr. Pettit, who sends us RCWs, this or that. Is there an RCW that provides for the use of REIT 1 funds to make this maneuver with money all legal? Is there an RCW or a court case? Because the RCWs that we've been sent say you can't make that type of an expenditure out of REIT 1. So I'm always curious about that.
Everything we do is vetted, trust me, through the state auditor's office or through statute. So the way that this fund has been handled is
But there's
absolutely.
not a specific RCW that allows, that's contrary to the one that we keep getting sent to us?
I don't know.
Elizabeth,
No, the REIT.
Buying of a building.
Spending money out of the REIT fund for other purposes.
so you already have a legal opinion from Elizabeth on that.
I thought the legal opinion was moving here from
yeah,
Olympia.
but so what expenditures you're talking about out of the REIT fund, commissioners? Is paying the loan?
Well,
Payment of the bonds.
I'm pretty picky about this, mainly because I think it's a fairness issue. That's why I've always been opposed to this, that the city of Olympia and Tumwater and Lacey, for an example, they all get REIT funds too. But we are the unincorporated residents of Thurston County are burdened by this tax, if you will, to pay for county activity that benefits the municipalities as well. And I just don't think it's a fair expenditure because we're using unincorporated generated tax dollars to pay for total county benefit, which is the municipalities as well. They're basically getting a free ride when we have very limited budget to provide services as it is. So I don't know why we do it that way, because we can't get a 60-40 vote with the public. I don't know, because I guess that's what it would take if we wanted to access their funds as well. But the county taxpayers, and I know I hear about, well, sometimes the county taxpayers are selling to someone from the city or from another jurisdiction, and they're really the ones paying that REIT fund. But that's not always true. The law allows for the purchaser or the seller to to pay that. It's just that somebody has to pay it. And it's generally, I guess, the purchaser. But I mean, that's how come I'm such a bugaboo about this whole thing, is that we are spending county citizens' tax dollars that could normally be spent for other things, whether it would be salmon enhancement or bridges or whatever it might be. So we take that money away from those possibilities and we spend it on the courthouse complex or courthouse activities. And this is a good example right here where we're at today, that's being paid for by just unincorporated citizens, not the whole county. And we're servicing the whole county because, I mean, the auditor's office, the whole county should be paying for your services.
Sure, and we conduct elections for the entire county.
Right, and that's why I object to just using county taxpayer REIT funding to cover all these costs. And I think, we went out for a $50 million bond or something. That bond is going to be paid off through REIT generated by that unincorporated tax. And that is an unfair issue, in my estimation, to those individuals in unincorporated Thurston County because they're having to shoulder the whole load for the whole county's benefit. So that's kind of where I'm at and trying to stay on top of these. So when I ask for an RCW, all I'm looking for is an RCW that gives the authority. Or maybe there's a court case that gives the authority, because the RCWs that were given, and I just don't recall that we got a legal opinion. I think we had counsel tell us it was okay to do it, but I don't think we ever got a legal opinion.
You have a written legal opinion by Elizabeth. I can print that copy again for you.
Okay, could you please do that?
Oh, absolutely, yes. It was at your request. You requested a written legal opinion on
I
this.
believe that was the move. We're okay to come to Olympia. I mean, we're okay to come to annexed areas of Olympia.
Oh, and I believe also included the use of REIT one for those expenditures. But
It's not sinking in, that's all.
okay.
So you don't know offhand, right
No,
off the top
but
of your head.
believe me, we follow law. and
Oh, I'm
what
sure you're
SAO
doing it
tells us
the
and all
right
of
way.
that,
I mean,
so
I'm not questioning that.
I
I'm just being
understand.
able to, I want to be able to
Yeah.
refer to, well, under RCW 1234, it says, yes, we can do X, Y, or Z.
So I
When we
can
get
look that
some,
up right now.
you're looking it up right
Yes.
now, okay. Good. Anyway.
I'm just like
might
you
clarify
though, it's
some
like,
things.
show me the RCW, so I totally understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, and the fairness issue is just my
Well,
concern.
Right, but then you're saying, so should the city of Tumwater, since we're in Tumwater, pay for the building? And since it's in
No,
Tumwater?
I think the total activity that the county provides to every citizen
Mhm.
in Thurston County, wherever that is, it's the health department, the treasurer, the assessor, the auditor, the sheriff to some degree, because they have their own police department, but the sheriff also covers all the felony activities that end up in the jail and all those kind of things. That burden should be shouldered by all the taxpayers.
I totally agree with you.
But it's not being,
Right.
it's
You're
not, and I
absolutely
don't think it's
correct.
fair,
I agree.
so that's where we're at.
I don't want to put Elizabeth on this spot, but she just joined us.
Oh, okay.
And that she could provide a perspective, her analysis related to the county seat, as well as her analysis.
County
related-
seat, I'm not,
And that
I think I got that
her
right.
analysis related to the REIT one.
Okay.
Are you there, Elizabeth? Elizabeth?
Does she know she's muted?
You're on mute, Elizabeth. Can you hear us?
Your connection's lost her.
If I may, Commissioner, I know that this has definitely been one of the hotbed topics over a number of years now from the legislature, just
Yep.
looking at the whole tax reform conversation and only being able to move that just so far. And obviously, they did not make many gains in this last legislative session. The upside, I think, from what currently exists are just the limitations of the funding streams that we have and allowed uses and how they're collected. And there will always be kind of that inequity piece of it. And I think that's why under the sales tax portion, that the counties do receive a portion of those sales that occur within the cities because of the regional nature of the services that are provided. But that's the only tool that I'm aware of.
That's the 15-85% split, right? Which doesn't even come
Oh, no,
close to adequately
it doesn't.
cover
Does not.
expense.
Right.
So that's what I'm always
I
arguing.
have the email
So,
from Elizabeth. Let me read it. Go ahead.
Well,
FSC
the RCW is 8246,010. And it's subsection 6 that defines what the money can be used for.
Thank you.
And, related to the atrium, Commissioner, I have an email from May 19, 2022, which I reviewed that with the board back then, from Elizabeth. And it says, after reviewing all my notes and emails on this issue from February, I do reconfirm my original opinion as shared with you back in February, that the use of REIT 1 funds are appropriate for the purchase of the furniture and other personal property associated with the atrium project.
Well, I guess I wasn't questioning what it gets used for per se, just that it be expended here. But you're just saying it's only usable for the furniture?
And other expenditures associated with the atrium project, which is included.
So that could be anything, the lease and the whole business?
We
Not
don't
the
pay the
lease.
lease with REIT 1.
Not the lease, and we do not use REIT for M&O.
Okay,
But all of the tenant improvements,
okay, so the May 19th, 2022.
And again, we can certainly organize another executive session with Elizabeth for her to provide you that perspective again.
Well, if we've got it, if we've already had, somehow I blocked that part out. I know the courthouse location is.
At that point, we brought all these issues to your attention because that was the obligation that I had.
Could you print that for me then, please?
Absolutely.
I would also add that the state auditor is auditing the REIT fund. I've had a conversation and asked them to please let us know anything they need to be able to do a thorough audit of this fund.
I mean, this is just always or just recently?
This year in particular, but it's not the first time they have audited REIT.
Okay, good. Thank you.
And it's common practice for us to go out and ask the state auditor, about allowability.
I'm just trying to put an issue to rest. if I
Sure.
can.
Questions, Commissioner Munster? No. I do get that monthly expense report or kind of where we're at. I believe that's always been shared with the chair of the board. But if it's something that commissioners want to see, I'm
Okay.
happy.
We can probably send that to me, can continue to
Yeah,
submit
I
that.
can send it over to Ramiro once Mary sends it over and
Okay. Maybe one other question that I didn't understand, and that was about a week ago, somewhere back then, we were, there was one page missing from some information that we received and was out here. And it was page 2 of 3. And it had a deficit amount, like almost $1 million when it talked about the REIT fund. Is that what you're talking about on booking, or the way you keep track of that fund? I mean, it showed in parentheses, which to me means a deficit. So what was that all about?
So,
Could you explain that to
yeah,
us?
so we actually made it, so we've got systems that don't talk to each other, so that requires a lot of manual entry, right? Because our budget software doesn't talk to our financial system. So when the person was entering data, they actually entered a negative, which should have been a positive, or positive that should have been a negative.
It was originally positive, it should have been.
Right, so it was corrected after that, so that's why you might see at one point in time, one with a negative balance, one, and then later with a positive balance.
Positive first, then negative.
Okay.
Yeah, positive first, then negative. It was simply a data entry error, but
Pretty
that's been
confusing to a
corrected.
guy that has a hard time with numbers, I guess.
Well, it's
you know.
confusing to staff when you've got a
Okay.
budget system where the negatives are positives here, so we're trying to rectify that with a new financial system,
The
but of
ERP
course,
hopefully will resolve that.
yeah.
So when we get
So
this new system that we're being blackmailed about, and ongoing annual costs and all that type of thing, licensing, when we get that in place, that's less likely to happen.
Because there won't be manual data entry.
So
You
it
know,
was,
people
all
are
it was
human and
was,
people make mistakes,
it
unfortunately.
was just a simple
It
mistake.
was a simple mistake. It was a keying error.
Okay, well, thank you.
So, yeah, sorry about that. But we caught it and we corrected it, and
But going back to the missing page of the report last week, that was a printing error because the older report was posted online. It was just a printing error not to print back two-sided print. But the whole report was posted online and is available online.
Okay. So we got a lot of money, it sounds like, and we can make it work.
it's gonna be fine. I wouldn't say we have a ton of money, but we're gonna make it.
And
At
Robin,
least the way it
Robin has stated
looks
when you
today.
review the REIT one fund, she has been conservative and seeing the reduction of the REIT fund revenues. And we watch it every day. And that's the check and balances that we have here in the county. Because it's not just a single point of view of assessing any type of fund. There's a check and balance between the auditor's office and the budget office to make sure we doing the right thing to the best of our abilities. So, anyways.
And that's the purpose of the report that I give, because it shows you revenue versus expenditures, and it shows you percentage of years. You can see the percentage of budget spent at any given time. So it's not as useful like in May, but when you get to October, November, it's very valuable, so. And that goes to the chair every month. In fact, you'll be getting a new one any day.
That's all I have for you on this item, Commissioners.
Okay. Any further questions, comments? Okay.
If you can stay for
Sure.
one item on the agenda and the next, that would be great.
Next is review of the Board of County Commissioners draft agenda for a meeting of May 16th, 2023. We'll call the meeting to order at 2 p.m. Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Vice Chair Menser, and approval of the Tuesday, May 16th, 2023 agenda. Then there will be an opportunity for the public to address the board and county manager's update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As part of the county manager's update, the auditor's office in the county received an award from the Government Finance Officers Association, also known as GFOA. And the award is stating they have won a certificate of achievement of excellence in financial reporting from the 2021 Comprehensive Financial Report. This is 16 years in the making. We receive that every year. And it's not just a simple task of receiving that certificate and that award. is really a reflection of what you just discussed today. Is the financial reports that we provide to the public, the check and balances they provide here, incorporated in the county. And this is just a reflection again of the commitment for clean and accurate financial reporting. So thank you for all your help on this. Darren, I know that you're pivotal on this particular award. I will highlight this afternoon for a few minutes. If you have staff coming in, that will be fantastic as well.
We'll be here.
Thank you. Any questions?
No questions, thank you. Sounds like a good job. Thanks for coming down.
Back to work. Anytime.
I'm glad we agree on at least that issue of the.
We do, and I really think that needs to be a solution in the legislature.
Okay, thanks.
And I'm happy to work with you on that if you want.
Thank you.
Moving on to consent items, there's only one item, and it's from the Assessor's Office, a resolution reclassifying a position in the Thurston County Pay and Classification Pay Plan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You reviewed this item last week. And this is really the reflection of a good program that the county assessor has in his office, where he brings individuals with not necessarily much of experience while he invests on building that experience with those staff members, as well as have them go through the right certifications to do that. And at that point is a recruitment tool and also a retention tool that will bring those to a higher classification when the time is right. So this particular proposal is for you to consider a reclassification from appraisal assistant to a senior appraisal assistant in the classification plan. The salary impact on this will go from $4,837 to $6,174. That will be $1,337 a month, just about 27% increase. The assessor is not asking for any additional budget authority. He already planned to do this when the board approved the budget for 2023.
Thank you. Any questions? Commissioner Edwards.
And even though we don't have to adjust the budget this year, next year, it'll be part of the regular increase.
It will be the base budget. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Munson? Moving on to department items, item 4A from the Auditor's Office, approval of the voucher list.
Thank you for your considerations to approve the voucher list for the week of April 24, 2023 for a combined amount of $2,811,784.92. The reason as to why this is your department item today is we continue to process expenditures related to the tenant improvements here at the atrium.
Any questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No, ma'am.
Commissioner Munson? Okay. No questions for me. Moving on to item 5A, Community Planning and Economic Development for the public hearing for the Clements Open Space Tax Program application.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You had a briefing back in April 27, 2023, where staff from CPED provide you feedback related to an application of an open space farm. That particular property no longer is eligible to remain the assessor's farm and agricultural program for open space. And they have applied for the open space that is managed by the Board of County Commissioners. So there is a proposal to this particular 5-acre parcel to qualify 4 acres to have an open space related to agricultural conservation. And that will be just about 50% reduction in potential property taxes calculations. The Planning Commission reviewed this item. They held a public hearing and they provided a unanimous recommendation for the board to take approval of this application. So the next step in the process is to make sure the public has the opportunity to provide testimony before you take a final action. And this action is for you to consider setting a public hearing for June 13th, 2023 at 3:30 in the afternoon.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
maybe clarification. So this dollar amount is shared to the other taxpayers within the district. It's a very small amount.
Right.
And should something happen in which the owner of this parcel change their mind, they could do so, but they'd have to pay a 7-year back tax at whatever the current rate would be.
Plus
Is
tax, plus interest.
Yeah, so it isn't like a freebie, if you will. It guarantees these open spaces or ag or
Yeah.
whatever. Maybe not forever, but it discourages taking it out. And if they do so, these citizens again are made whole that had to pay this very small amount. Is that kind of the concept behind that? I like to have the citizens feel that we're being free, we're being fair with all parties concerned as best we can. I'm not
So
saying it's exact, but.
I think what you're asking is if the board approves this application and goes into the open space, there is a reduction for up to 50% out of 4 acres out of the 5 acres. And that reduction of 50% is distributed among all the taxpayers in the taxing district. What you're asking is if this property owner decides to sell that property, let's say in the next 7 years from now, to another, for a development.
Sure,
Right.
whatever.
So they're required to pay 7 years back on taxes plus interest. What you're asking is whether that revenue generated by that sale and the fees and penalties will be redistributed to the ratepayers?
I guess, yeah, that would be my question. Not that that's gonna decide whether or not
Yeah.
I support this. I'm just trying to, maybe it doesn't go just to that district, but goes to the county in total, to the
Yeah,
general fund.
it goes to the county, but that would be a good question to ask the treasurer to see how
I mean,
that
I just-
distribution is. I don't have that answer to that question.
I'm kind of a bugaboo about fairness with all parties concerned, and I just wonder.
Yeah, if that is the question, I don't have the answer.
I've had
for
to
you
do that
today.
myself. I've had to pay 7 years back taxes from a timber tax situation to a 1 in 5, rural RR 1 in 5 or something. And we had to pay 7 years back taxes. I was just kind of wondering if that went into the general fund or if it ended up going back to the district ratepayers.
I'm sorry, which type of payment goes to the general fund?
I don't know.
What type of payment are you asking about?
If you remove a thing from the open space program, you have this
Right.
penalty.
7
That
years.
penalty go back and recompensate everyone that paid a tiny bit more, because you can't imagine
No.
if that happened.
No, but it gets deposited into funds, any fund that would have received a property tax that was exempt under the Open Space Act. So if you had to pay $1,000 and you live in a area in the county that pays the property tax that you pay and is shared between general fund, road fund, medic fund, conservation futures, whichever city, if you're within a city, you're not paying road fund. Whatever school jurisdiction you might be in, everybody gets a little piece of this tax that you had not paid. So
Okay.
some goes to the general fund, some goes to all these other places. And that's true with any type of tax, back taxes, penalties, anything like that that comes in. Timber payments.
I think publics would be interested in hearing that, those that are interested in it, but. No, thank you. That's good.
Good to go on that item?
I'm good to go, sir.
All right, I'm taking over here for Commissioner McGee for a moment. We'll go on to item 6, information technology, approve renewal of Microsoft Enterprise Agreement. Sherry Ill, no longer interim, correct?
No longer, we'll change that.
Typo on the schedule there. We have our Director of Information Technology.
Yeah, Yeah, you reviewed this item last week, commissioners, and for your consideration is to continue the partnership with Microsoft Enterprises. And this will be to provide support for all the Office 365 software that we use. That will be Outlook, Word, Excel, Access, SharePoint, Visio, Project, SharePoint, System Configuration Manager. So we have been using Microsoft projects for years, if not decades. And that has been just embedded into the county system. And this is just the price of continuing to pay for the licenses and the support that we receive from Microsoft. This proposal is for you to consider this agreement for a 3-year period with a total cost of $550,488.51, and authorize the director now to sign that agreement. Any questions, sir?
No, I'm not gonna get into it. But I do have one question, and that is, we've been talking 60-40 out of the general fund for, quite a period of time. Most of the things that we cover, it seems like it's 60-40 is what I hear back. Is it still 60-40, or is it closer to 50-50, or at what point, when we don't have as many FTEs drawn on the general fund than we do on the other funds? Somewhere along the line, I'm hoping we're gonna get a better break on the general fund.
It all depends on what it is you're paying for, because the basis changes. Sometimes it's based on FTEs, sometimes it's based on budget, sometimes it's based on number of computers each office owns. And so what we find though is it's roughly 60-40 is about where it falls.
Okay, good enough. Thank you. That was
We look at it every year, it's refined.
clarification.
Anything, Sherry, we need to know?
Not really. This is $550,000 plus tax each year for 3 years, so just.
Oh, it is. I thought it was, so it's $1.5 million
In total.
in total. Oh, for some reason I had misread that. I thought it was divided up
Per
over
year.
3 years.
Sorry.
I know we still have to pay it.
It's already included in the budget that you
Yeah.
approved, so there's no.
And for the, I think I did the math last week, it's roughly $650 per person. For the entire Microsoft suite, it's a bargain.
Yeah,
Per
per
person.
year.
Per
year,
person
yeah.
per year. Per county employee per year.
And I think I
Can
probably
you
sent.
figure out a way around it, Commissioner? If you can, I'd like to hear it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
It may be worth putting in, I agree with Commissioner Edwards, the way it reads, when you say a 3-year agreement for $550,000
Per year,
per year or
Yeah.
annually.
we'll add
That
that.
would be more clear.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
Item 7 is under Public Health and Social Services, setting public hearing for a HUD consolidated plan. 2 plans, it looks like. I'm not gonna go through all those details, but staff may want to. Tom Webster from Public Health Social Services. Tom, is this your item?
Yes, it is. Good afternoon, Commissioners.
We're ready for you.
Did you want me to introduce this, or was the county manager going to review this?
Yeah, I think you reviewed this item last week also, commissioners. And we need to provide a 5-year housing urban development consolidated plan in a yearly annual action plan. So the time has come to have the 2023-2027 housing urban development consolidated plan that includes the 2023 annual action plan. Those plans includes 2 major funding that we receive from HUD. One is the home, as well as the community development block grant, also known as CDBG. This request is for you to set the public hearing for June 20, 2023. It's a little bit beyond the 20 days because the requirement under federal HUD regulations, we need to allow for a 30-day comment period before you may consider an action. That is why this item is set for June 20, 2023. Any questions?
No question, I have no questions.
Commissioner Mejia? You can just pipe in if you do have questions. Okay, let's, Tom, good to go?
Yep, we're good to go. Just to let you know, the city of Lacey will be making their recommendations on CDBG this week. They're picking the projects.
Okay, thank you. Let's move to item 8 under Public Works. Resolution adopting role of assessment for Patterson Lake Management District number 23.
So, Commissioners, this is the last step in the process related to forming the Lake Management District, where by you approving the role assessment, where you held a public hearing back in July 2022. By meaning of what I mean with the last step in the process, after you consider formally approving the role of assessment for those properties within the boundaries of the new LMD, Lake Management District. That action will be sent to the assessor, and those assessments will be starting to appear on those property statements January 1st, 2024. Tim?
Good morning, Commissioners. I have nothing to add except for one small correction. The public hearing on this action was held on January 10th, 2023.
Oh, thank you. There's so many public hearings on this one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Commissioners, any questions for Tim?
Yeah, I have one question on this topic. Is this the one where we had some legal issues going on about ballots and different things like that?
Yeah. Yes, and
Is that worth mentioning? It's kind of aggravating and complicated, and to those folks, I think, you know, I don't know if we're opening up a old wound, if it's went away or.
So it was a couple of, without violating the executive session rules.
Oh, okay, I don't want to get into
There
anything
was,
like that.
it is public, there was 2 legal actions related to this item. We had a public records request. They requested names, addresses of the individuals who voted, informing the LMD. That was challenged by some members of the Lake Management District in court. The court went through the process and allowed, I believe, the county to issue that response.
So we had
that was one.
to follow the court's order.
Yeah, and the other item was related to challenge on the fees and charges and the assessments. That has also been resolved.
And that's been resolved as well?
That is why, as you may recall, it was provided a legal recommendation for the board not to take any action on this until all those legal matters have been resolved. Since that executive session you heard, those matters have been resolved, and that is why we bring this item for your attention.
Maybe Tim would know the answer to this. I just kind of a clarification for myself, how it worked out within the community. And it's not one property, one vote somehow as this thing moves forward.
The voting
It's
structure?
kind of complicated. What was the outcome on, there was a potential, I don't know, 10,000 votes and 5,500 of them brought it over the finish line. I really don't recall. I'm just kind of curious how that went with this community. I just don't remember it. I'm having a hard time with my memory this morning, I guess.
Yes, and without looking back at the numbers, I can speak roughly on this, and I'm happy to get you those exact numbers. But to your question about how the vote works, so the vote by statute is 1 vote per dollar of annual assessed value. So as an example, if you have an upland parcel that has an assigned value of $77 annually, then you get 77 votes in the affirmation process for the LMD. If you're a lakefront owner and your annual rate is $500, just picking a number, then you would get 500 votes. I don't recall the outcome in terms of total votes, total weighted votes for Pattison Lake, but what I do recall is in general by parcel, so by individuals voting, it was about a 55% approval rating for Pattison Lake. 56%, and I can get you those numbers.
No, I don't need the numbers. I'm just curious about that breakdown. Thank you. That's all I need to know. That's it for me, sir.
Okay. If there's no other questions, move on to item 8B, resolution and call for sealed bids for 2023 overlay project. Got Steve Bricker here, County Manager.
Thank you, commissioners. You see this item every 2 years, and the Public Works Department has a program. 1 year they do a chip seal program in the county. You were part of those conversations last year, and you also had robust conversations as to the increase in cost of the chip seal, and which ended up last year reducing on the number of miles we could have done. So in this year, we have what we call an overlay project, where we actually overlay, no chip seal, county roadways. We're expecting to do just about 4.2 miles. Overlaying a county road is way more expensive than chip seal strategies, but also the investment lasts those roads for an additional 15 years. That's the big difference. So this proposal is for you to consider authorizing the department to call for sealed bids for the 2023 overlay. They will be concentrating on segments of Martin Way, Carpenter Road, Dutterer Road, Meridian Road, 93rd Avenue, and Vale Road. We estimate we have a total cost of $3,500,000 on this program, where $1 million is coming from the real estate excise tax 2. That's what you authorize on that, and also that is also the remainder is funded by the county road fund. Steve.
Yeah, good morning, County Commissioner Steve Bricker, the Construction Manager for Public Works. I think the County Manager covered everything well. We're excited to get this project done and kind of take care of some major roads in the county. Let me know if you guys have any questions.
Steve, do you guys, is your outfit kind of in charge of the fix the roads like that? The road along the Black Lake going down towards Gate? Is that your project where they fixed that up, or was that a contract?
Long Black Lake towards
Black
Gate?
River. Black River.
Oh, are you talking about Little Rock Road?
No, Black River on the other side. The other side from Little Rock Road goes down to Gate from the Little Rock area.
I don't recall doing like a paving project there.
Oh, you just did patch up work.
Yeah, that was probably preparatory work getting ahead of next year's chip seal season. So our road operations group will kind of fix the road up and get it ready to put the chip seal down, dig out the potholes, those types of things. So maybe you were talking about that.
Okay, I just had an opportunity to drive down there to talk to a constituent the other day. And a great job. I just wanted to point that out to you.
That's good to hear. Yeah, let Mike Loman know, because that was his crews doing that work. So that's really good to hear. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Steve. If there's no other questions, we'll go to item 8C, award of master contracts for furnishing a supply of various asphalt materials.
The board authorized to go with the bid process to secure the materials for the upcoming road construction season in the county. This strategy has been proven to be very fruitful in the last few years, where we secure the cost for materials. The Public Works needs to conduct the day-to-day activities to maintain the roadways and the many different items within. So the result of that process on April 20th, they received 4 bids. They will provide many different materials for all the operation needs the department has. The proposal for you is to authorize the master contracts for 4 vendors: Tucci & Sons from Tacoma, Granite Construction of Everett, Miles Resources from Puyallup, and Lakeside Industry from Olympia. Those master contracts have on specific items, and they will be compensated based on the need basis when we need those supplies and materials. Mike?
Thank you, County Manager. I think that summed it up very well. Good morning, Commissioners. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
I do have one question, but probably to the county manager. So the reason there's no dollar amount in there is because we haven't spent the money yet.
Yeah,
We don't know exactly
we
what
just
we're gonna be
negotiated the
getting,
master
right?
contract. We understand the terms and conditions, and we compensate based on the materials. It could be tons of asphalt that we may need,
Sure.
and we compensate based on the need.
Okay, thank you. And Mike, it was a good job that roadway I was talking about over there.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll pass that on to the crews.
Okay. Moving along, we'll go to item 8D, resolution to call for sealed bids for steel bridge fabrication, Thompson Creek Railroad Fish Passage.
Yeah, you also reviewed this item last week, Commissioners, and this is to request to go for a sealed bid process to secure the services to fabricate 2 steel bridges. Those 2 steel bridges is the on Thompson Creek as well as the Cooper Road Southwest. Those are fish barrier removal projects. And the strategy behind having the bridges be prefabricated, it will allow us to do the construction when what we call within the fish window. And that's a very limited time, and that we can do between June and October. And again, this has been a very successful program. This strategy has been extremely successful to secure all the bridges prefabricated ahead of time. So when we issue the actual contract for installation, we meet the requirements of the fish window. And we went ahead and have a bid process for the Thompson Creek in December 2022 and again in 2023, February. And we didn't receive any responsive bids. There was not enough. So the strategy behind is to have those 2 bridges that will attract potential fabricators. And the intent is to have those 2 bridges being built this year, and the actual installation will not occur until the fish window of 2024. This is all covered by the real estate excise tax too, as the board has funded this particular project program. And also there is some grants. They have been secure for the installation of those 2 bridges. Marcus?
Good morning, Commissioners. Marcus Dorvick, Senior Civil Engineer with Public Works. The only thing I would add, as the County Manager stated, that when we went out to advertise earlier this year, the key difference was we are expecting bridges this year for construction this summer. This is in response to the industry backlogs where the lead times are now 12 months out. So when we originally went out, we were expecting 4 months lead time. They're now 12 months out, which is pushing out the construction.
Commissioners, Commissioner Edwards.
What kind of a traffic count do we have on those individual roadways?
I do not have the exact number with me, but I can tell you these are low volume roadways. The Thompson Creek road in South County, south of Tenino, services a few homes at the end of the road and also some Weyerhaeuser logging roads, whereas the Cooper Road one services the ORV park and Capitol Forest. So we would consider those low volume county roads.
And how wide is your bridge that you're asking to be built?
The Thompson Creek one is 24 feet and the Cooper is 20 feet.
That's within the size of a railroad car. I just want you to know. Okay, I'm not gonna bring up any more about that, but I don't understand why we can't do it on the cheap once in a while. Those cars last a long
This is
time.
a fish battery removal.
Yeah, I know, but just set a bridge across, set a car across there. Anyway, good enough.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. I have no questions on that one, so let's go to item 9, which would be standing items, and then we will have at 5 PM a public hearing related to the Shoreline Master Program update.
Thank you, commissioners. This public hearing is gonna take a little while. You have already received a significant written testimony. I will expect they probably will have significant verbal testimony. And this is really for you to begin the process of receiving public testimony before you can take an action on this very complex update. For this afternoon, we only asked the board to close the public hearing, and we will have, I'm assuming, significant follow-up briefings for you to go through all the public testimony you receive, and at that point, whether you feel in the position to move forward with this particular proposal or not. A lot of work behind this. Finally, we get to the point for you to receive public testimony. And again, we'll make sure we open the doors here to work with the overflow. We'll transmit the Board of County Commissioners meeting on the TV. There's located on the main hallway here at the building. And last week, and I don't know if Commissioner Mejia is here, Commissioner Mejia asked if the board may be considering reducing the public testimony from less than 4 minutes. And I think may be prudent for you to consider that this afternoon, because I am expecting to have significant members of the public coming in, both in person as well as via Zoom.
Yeah, I don't have
I
any
think
objection.
that's a reasonable thing to do.
Let the chair,
Yeah, I don't know if,
Decision.
Madam Chair, are you able to listen to this conversation?
Yes. I'm not sure how many will be coming in for public comment, and just being that it might be significant, I wanted the board to consider doing a lesser time. I know this is a topic of high public interest, so I was really looking for suggestions from the board. I know it's usually the chair's prerogative, but just wanting suggestions from the board on what they thought was appropriate.
I have to say, I think it would be appropriate because there's gonna be a lot of repetitive comments, you know, on this issue. And it's basically gonna boil down to for or against. We've received a fair amount of written communication from those individuals that have taken the time to do so. And I think we got something from FutureWise, maybe this morning,
Just today.
on their point. So I think a lesser amount of repeat comments would be beneficial. What that could be, I don't know. I mean, is it mandated that we have 3 minutes, or could we do 2 minutes? Or
I believe it's the prerogative of the board. Whatever you like, you think is appropriate. My recommendation would be to reduce it to 3 minutes. And see how it goes, and maybe give the latitude of the chair to lessen that 3 minutes based on the number of members of the public might be coming, but at least 3 minutes will be good.
I have to say, I agree with the county manager's position on
yeah,
that.
I would think that if it's a moderately high amount of people, you'd go to 3, and if it's overwhelming, like we've never seen,
Yeah.
2 would be
To
within the chair's
Right.
prerogative as well.
Right.
Yeah.
It's fine with me. Okay, very good. And that'll be a wrap for today. Let's move quickly, because I think,
Could I
yeah.
ask one question, please, Andy? There was one mention, I know, on one of the comments about shoreline residential. Is that a category you've got a citizen that was asking that question. So it seems like it would be a category, but is it or not?
It is one shoreline environment designation that's in the Shoreline Master Program. So the shoreline environment designations were proposed for all the shorelines earlier in the process, and those designations take into account the type of development on the shoreline, the ecological resources that are present, and then the buffers and other development standards are then based on those shoreline environment designations. And the shoreline residential specifically is for those shorelines that are the most heavily developed in the county.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you.
Anything else, Andy?
I have nothing else to add. I'm looking forward to 5 o'clock.
Okay,
Really?
very good. Okay, in my estimation, we're kind of behind time, so let's go right into next Tuesday's review of next Tuesday's proposed agenda. Meeting called to order at 2 p.m. Pledge of Allegiance be led by Commissioner Edwards. Looking at the agenda for approval, opportunity public to address the board and county manager's update.
Yeah, I will follow up with any updates that require follow-up based on the public testimony you may receive this afternoon.
Any questions from commissioners up to this point? Okay, consent items, we have, looks like 2. 3A is a human resources item regarding district court commissioner salaries.
Yeah, if you allow me to cover both items, I think both are the same. One is for Superior Court and the other one is for District Court. As you may know, the salaries for District Court judges as well as the Superior Court judges are established by the Salary Commission at the state. And they make a determination of adjusting the salaries for the judges both in District Superior Courts every 2 years. So they have come to the conclusion and they're recommending for the District Court judges for 2023, July 1st, 2023, their salary will be $206,988. And July 1st, 2024, their salary will be $217,337. That's already part of the budget. Traditionally, the board has taken an action to bring the court commissioners to 85% of the adjusted salaries. And that is the action today. For District Court, I mentioned is the salaries for the 85 percentile of their salaries is for 2023, $175,100, and for 2024, July 1st, 2024, $184,736. For Superior Court judges, their salary is a little bit higher. For 2023, July 1st, will be $217,391. And for beginning July 1st, 2024, their salary will be $228,261. Their 85 percentile for the court commissioners for 2023 will be $184,783.25, and for 2024, $194,21.81. And that covers item 3A and 3B.
I do have a couple questions on this. So this is a state salary commission
For the judges.
for the judges that have made this recommendation to us. Is it the same for all superior and district courts around the state? So it's a set amount that they have determined?
Yeah.
What, do 100% of the 39 counties adopt this on a regular basis, or 90% of them adopt it and the others?
Maybe a clarification. You're not adopting the salaries for the judges. This item's for you to consider adopting 85% percentile of their salaries to the court commissioners.
Okay, is that also a standard around the state?
That's your legislative authority to establish the salary for the court commissioners. Because the court commissioners are not part of the salary commission at the state level. This is legislative action. That's what I'm bringing this item to you.
And for how long has this process been going on?
Traditionally, you have been approving the 85 percentile of the judges, at least from since my tenure, has been on every 2 years.
I think the entire time I've been here, it's been at 85%.
You know, I'm gonna defer to my seatmate on this topic and I'll follow his lead.
Commissioner Mejia? Comment on this one?
If the 85 percentile is what we've usually done, I'm comfortable with that. Weren't they included in the market study, Tara?
I will have to check. Offhand, I do not recall. I think that they were, but I will double check that real quick.
County manager saying no,
No? Okay.
which would make sense given this.
I don't recall seeing this classification on the class income.
You have a much better memory than I do too.
And again, during the budget amendment process, you already made a preliminary decision as to how you will address the increase on the salary for the court commissioners.
And like, so for the judges, let's say it's general fund and it's set by the state, and that's pretty much, we don't have any say over that. And then the question is, do we?
Yeah, the legislative
adjust the
decision
commissioners
for the court commissioners,
to this
85 percentile.
Okay, well, I don't know that I have any
I'm gonna
comments
go
on
with
this.
your recommendation. It's more in your field.
Yeah. I think the system's reasonable and probably should just stick with it. Okay, let's go on to that's 3A and 3B then. Let's go to 4A, auditor approval voucher list.
Thank you for your consideration. Next week is for the board to approve the voucher list for the week of May 1st, 2023 for a combined amount of $2,240,369.02. The reason again, this item is in department item and not in your consent agenda. We're still seeing expenditures related to the tenant improvements here at the atrium.
Any questions?
No, thank you.
Let's go on to item 5, central services, lease amendment extension between Thurston County Facilities and BW Investment.
We brought this item to you maybe over a month ago, and we didn't quite have ready the negotiations of this extension of the lease. This is located 2500 Mudman Road Southwest. That's where we have the facilities, staff leasing this piece of building. And this is related to the Mudman campus the county owns. And the intent of this lease is to extend it to March 31st, 2024 to give us time to build the transition, to move the facilities group out of this particular location into the permanent location, which is in one of the buildings of the Mudman complex. So this really just giving us a bridge, an extension on the lease to work through the logistics when we move permanently to the Mudman complex. Richard?
Yeah, he explained it perfectly. It was just an extension to give time to move facilities to the new building.
Question?
It seems like some time back, and maybe that included all the way back into last year when we were talking about this, it seemed that they were kind of hot to trot to get you guys out of there and do something else. Now, I know the economy has slipped considerably on office space and other activities like that. Is that playing into this as well? Is it an indicator of what is going on out there in the real estate world when it comes to office space? They've kind of pulled back and said, well, we'll work with you or anything. Are we getting a better break because of that? Are they raising? Are they giving us the same deal, or what's going on there?
So the rate is increasing from what it is originally right now, but they are willing to negotiate more as of recently. That's why it was pulled off of the agenda last time, was because this gives us an extra 2 months to give facilities the opportunity to do any of the updates and things on the building that they're gonna be moving into. So they are willing to negotiate more based off of how the length of time that we're there, but not necessarily the rates.
So I don't think that we could comment on the owner's willingness to extend. We don't know what his motives are.
I guess my follow-up to that would be, is there any chance that we could continue to utilize this, maybe even a little farther down the road, if things don't improve, and give you a little more time to do that repair work or whatever you're doing at Montman?
It's possible, but since we're going to do the work ourselves at minimal to no cost for the facilities group to move into Montman, then it's in our best interest to get out of lease space. So
Yes, okay.
the owner may be willing to give us more time, but I don't think we want it.
Okay. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you, Richard. Thank you. Let's go to item 6, Public Works, resolution to call for sealed bids for the Yelm Rainier Tenino Trail restroom replacement.
Thank you, Commissioner. This particular proposal is for you to authorize Public Works to go through the sealed bid process to secure the services of a contractor to remove and replace the bathrooms that we have along the Yelm Tenino Trail, particularly near to the Lokowski Park and right near Washington. The existing bathrooms are old and really they are in great need of upgrade. Is a full replacement. So we will be replacing with 4 stalls, commercially grade, vandal resistant restrooms. And that will be also, the new bathrooms will provide ADA, that will be the American with Disabilities Act standards. We have estimated this will be costing about $700,000, and they will be coming from the park impact fees as well as the real estate excise tax too.
Any questions?
Yes. Does this also include a new septic system, whatever that might be, drain field, tanks, whatever, or is it going to be attached to an existing drain field and tanks? You know the answer to
I
that?
believe it's the existing. I don't think we're replacing the septic system right now. Can you clarify that?
That is correct. We're using the existing system.
So it's going to be at the same location then. And my question with that is there any ability to use ARP funds or ARPA, or, because we're doing some sewage and water stuff, and it's allowed somewhere under the recovery or ARPA. So could we alleviate the drain on the REIT 2 fund? Because I'm always trying to protect the
We can
funds.
always consider that.
Is there any hope that we could do that?
Sure.
I mean, just because we're gonna run up against the deadline pretty quick, and we're gonna have some funds left, I'm afraid. I know we don't want to have that happen, but I don't know, it just makes me nervous.
No, that's a good point, Commissioner.
So-
As we stated in the past, staff will bring proposals to ensure that no dollars are left on the table.
I mean,
So I don't think that this would fit under water and sewer projects. Because
Then look
those
up some
have to
water.
qualify for certain federal programs.
okay,
And I don't know that it would qualify under any of the new transportation permissions that were added in the last budget, but we could certainly look to see if it qualifies.
well, how about there's one other fund, because this is very instrumental to the wellness of the community. So how about public health, that
Foundational public health.
foundational
No, probably not.
public health, and you're pretty sure there's nothing there that we can.
Public
I'm
health
confident that it would not fit under
will
foundational
not be
public
able
health.
to fit that criteria to build infrastructure. about
Well,
bathroom
good
portability.
restrooms, being able to wash your hands, let's stretch it a little bit and see if we can't get away from draining our current expense or REIT fund or,
And also remember, you already made allocations on the foundational public health.
yeah, okay. But we're getting more money in once in a while too,
But it's
because
co-
we're doing a good job.
but it's-
finding this next
But it's
way to
coming
spend
up
it.
on your upcoming biennial budget. That we will
Okay.
have additional
I
allocation.
can't, I would think you guys might think I was sleeping at the switch if I didn't. bring up that stuff, so.
I'd
What?
be happy to
Never.
look at ARPA, it's possible.
I wanna
that
be
it'll
consistent.
fit under
Well, you always
something
are.
For ARPA, but no to foundational health.
Okay.
Anything else on trail restroom? Okay, hearing none, we'll go to item 6B, resolution appointing the county road engineer.
I'd really like to give the floor to the Public Works Director, Jennifer Walker, on this particular item.
Good morning, Jennifer Walker, Public Works Director. And the item that will be in front of the board for consideration is a recommendation from myself, from the department, to appoint Matt Unzelman as the county road engineer. Just a little background in terms of the recruitment process that we went through. As you know, the position became available with the resignation of Scott Lindblom. The board appointed Matt as the interim county road engineer in March. We did a recruitment, open and continuous, for a period of time. We had 6 applicants apply. We chose to invite 3 to interview. First round of interviews, 2 of the 3 were recommended on to the second round. During the week of the second round was scheduled, one of those 2 candidates withdrew. We moved forward with the interview with Matt, and it was a unanimous decision to make the recommendation to the board for Matt's appointment. Matt has been his entire career with Thurston County. He started out as an intern, 19 years old, with us. Yes, 19. And graduated from St. Martin's. The year after he graduated, he then got his master's degree in civil engineering from St. Martin's while he was working full-time, and has consistently promoted up within the organization, well-respected within the department and from our counterparts in other counties. We had County Road Administration Board, their deputy director and director sit on 2 separate panels for the interview process, as well as our new assistant county manager. And so with glowing recommendation from myself, we're asking for the board's consideration to appoint Matt as the permanent county road engineer.
And he has an active professional engineer's license, right?
Yes.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
When Scott left, who did he recommend that should fill his spot temporarily?
Matt.
Oh, I knew that. I mean, I just wanted to get it, I'm with Matt 100%. I like to see the county promote within, if at all possible, when we have good qualified people. I'm there.
Commissioner Mejia, any comments? Nope, okay. Good to go.
Right, thank you.
Congratulations to Matt. Okay, we have now item 7, A, B, and C is our sheriff items. We have Dave Pearsall, our new sheriff, and item 7A is contract for school resource officer, Rochester School District, for 3 different school years.
Yeah, this proposal, commissioners, is the Rochester School District has approached the Thurston County Sheriff's Office to provide resource officers on in their schools. And this is for the years 2023, 24, 24, 25, and 25, 26 in the Rochester School District. And that will be only during the school years, which is September through June. The Rochester School District will provide $95,000 to cover these expenses. The question that I have for Undersheriff is the $95,000 is for the overall 3-year school years or is per year?
It's per year.
Thank you.
I think it ought to say, because I had that question.
Yeah, so we'll add that 95,000 per year. And I believe that will cover a full-time sheriff deputy to provide the resource officer, right?
Yes, that's correct.
I'm good. I think there's a great relationship going on with our schools for resource officers. I think it says a lot when they're asking.
And then 7B is the similar situation with
For
Rainier.
Rainier, and this is extended for the same school years for 23, 24, 25, 24, 25, and 25, 26. And in this case, it will be 40,000 per year.
Commissioner, any questions? I guess my question would be, I brought this up in the past there, and last time I brought it up, it was, so what I understood was the state passed a law. They were going to be looking at SRO programs around the state, asking for data and kind of doing a report type situation. And then when I asked kind of where that stood, COVID had kind of interrupted and it was kind of on pause and nothing had really moved forward. Does anybody know of any, looking around the room, we got law and justice folks to my right and Undersheriff in front of me. Does anybody know of any updates on that state effort to look at SROs just to see how they're working and equity issues and whatnot?
I don't have an answer for that, but that's a good question. I could probably ask Leah to look into that to see if there's any.
Yeah, I think it was right when Leah came on, I asked her to take a look and.
So I will follow up with Leah
Okay.
and get that answer for her.
Okay, very good. Then let's just go right on then to 7C, which says extension of contract with City of Rainier.
So this a little bit different, and this particular item is related to, excuse me, to provide actually patrol services within the City of Rainier. We already have an extending contract with the City of Rainier that covers one full deputy as well as the vehicle that is going through the replacement. Is $271,869 from July 1st, 2022 to June 30, 2023. And also we have $218,000 for the existing contract that goes from July 1st, 2023 to June 30, 2024. This item is for you to consider to extend in the same contract to match the resource officer contract that we have, and it will take us all the way to 2026. That is really the request at this point on this. And the City of Rainier pays for all the related activities with the patrol officer. Can you clarify that? Is that accurate statement, Undersheriff?
Yes, it is.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No, but as we move forward with this whole thing, I would hope Leah would have a good discussion with the superintendents in each one of these schools, because the relationship is very key and unbelievably good.
So this item is for this with the city?
No, that's with the city, but I mean, you mentioned with Leah on the others, and I don't know if you can ask the mayor how he likes it, but I can tell you there's a great relationship out there with the sheriff's office in Rainier.
Okay, with that, we'll just, good to go. Thank you, Undersheriff.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Let's look at, we've got our standing items there, under county manager heading, and then we will have three public public hearings. So those will start at 3:30. It may be a break in the Board of County Commissioners meeting if necessary. The first one is 3A, it's just under A, Community Planning and Economic Development, hearing to consider ordinance implementing code clarifications and corrections amendment.
Yeah, you went through this process, commissioners. and you were briefed on April 12, 2023 related to the potential changes. It covers miscellaneous clerical errors, clarification and expansion of non-conforming non-residential uses and structures, and update the sign board posting procedures. For your consideration, next week is 2 actions for you to close the public hearing, and depending on the public testimony, for you to take an action on these changes. The next public hearing is related to the what the state budget passed, where the county may be receiving just about $7 million to build a runabout on 507 and Vale Road. I give you a little bit of perspective as to how the street roundabouts will be divided. One, First County will take the lead. The other one, the city of Yelm, will take the lead in building that infrastructure. And this item is for the 507 Vale Road. Thurston County will take lead in building that roundabout. So there's a couple items that we need to cover. One is we need to update the capital facilities plan, and you need to hold a public hearing that is related to item 3, or item B. And the other one, you also need to amend the transportation improvement program, the TIP, in order for us to incorporate the new project and have the authority. You already authorized our preliminary decisions on the budget amendment that includes those expenditures. We're just trying to cross all the T's and dot all the I's. And in this case, we only recommend next week for you to close both public hearings. A formal action will bring that later for your consideration. One note that you may need to take into account in order to amend the transportation improvement plan. It requires a unanimous decision by the board.
Questions on public hearings? Go ahead.
Transportation improvement plan or transportation improvement program?
Is the transportation improvement program that requires the second. And the capital improvements program, the CIP, is different. Is that what you guys concerned?
Yeah. You mentioned that Yelm is going to be responsible for one of the roundabouts?
That's
Where's
the,
that one located at?
gosh, there's 507 and Matt, do you remember the other intersection that Yelm's taking?
Yelm is taking Bald Hills.
Bald Hills, yeah. And the other roundabout in Pierce County is the 507
Yeah.
and 702.
What I'm wondering about is how the bypass connects in. I've been asked that by citizens out there.
I think the bypass, DOT is in the process of constructing that, and those 3 roundabouts will complement the whole
Yeah, they're gonna
bypass.
complement the whole thing, but,
Whole
so
bypass.
maybe they're gonna come in there at 5 Corners, is that it?
He is the soon-to-be new county road
It sounded like you
engineer.
got the thumbs up today, congratulations.
I appreciate that, Commissioners. Matt Ellsman, interim county engineer. So the bypass is gonna connect in, I believe the roadway is called Walmart Boulevard. They're gonna be putting a roundabout right there. And then these roundabouts will complement the roundabout that's going in at the Walmart Boulevard.
Oh, okay.
So on 507, the first roundabout you'd come to would be the Walmart Boulevard, then you'd come up to Bald Hill, then you get to ours at Vale Road, and then once you cross the Pierce County line, you'd get to the one 702, I believe is what it's called.
So it'll remain a 2-lane though, across the railroad overpass and the Nisqually River Bridge then, right?
That's my understanding.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes review of next week's agendas. We're gonna take 10, 11 minutes. It's 11:01. We'll convene in about 10 minutes to pick up with item 5. Okay, it's 11:14. We are back picking up on the Board of County Commissioners agenda setting work session with item 5, proclamations and awards. Clerk of the board, Jamie Caldwell.
Good morning. For proclamations, I have no updates. For boards and commissions, the standing application for the Agricultural Advisory Committee student applications that I included for your review. They're meeting on Thursday, and I'll follow up with them on Friday for their appointment recommendation. Also included is an appointment request for the Historic Commission and a BoCC representative for the Board of Law Library Trustees from Superior Court. The Historic Commission has reviewed the application and are recommending appointment as requested. I also have an update from the Planning Commission that will be noted on next week's packet. That Carmen submitted his resignation yesterday afternoon, so his position is now vacant as well. Outside of any questions, that's all I have.
And it appears Mr. Carmen's resignation is immediately because he just sent that email. He didn't give us any time.
How many years did he have in?
In the planning commission?
Yeah.
I'll say probably 4 years, maybe.
I think he'd been there longer now, but maybe not. Okay, anyway, that's a surprise.
So are we good to go on the Historic Commission, Commissioner Edwards?
Yes.
Let's
Yes.
put that forward for next week. And if Commissioner Mejia has any concerns, she can weigh in.
I did receive one more application for the Historic Commission yesterday afternoon as well, so I'll include that one for you.
We have several.
We have plenty of spots.
Yeah.
So there might be 2 that you guys can consider to add to next week's agenda, or to next week's agenda as well.
Is there, okay, is there any reason it couldn't be this week to get it going? I mean, is that a problem? Are we redoing anything on this at all? Because it'd be a consent item, wouldn't it?
No, I think what,
I'm just
as a
saying
courtesy
Commissioner
for Commissioner
Mejia's not here.
Mejia.
Oh,
because
okay,
Just in
since
case
she's
you
not
had
here.
any.
Okay, good enough.
That's the only thing I believe what.
Tee it
he
up
was
for
saying.
next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Can you say a little more about the Board of Law Library?
Yeah, so I included the email in there that Kristen had sent. Let me find it really quickly.
The very back page of our.
Yeah, so essentially, she noted that in RCW 2724-020, that every county with a population of 300,000 or more must have a Board of Law Library Trustees consisting of 5 members to be constituted as follows: the chair of the county legislative authority as an ex officio, the judges of the Superior Court, and then the county shall choose 2 members to be 2 of their members to be trustees, and the members of the County Bar Association shall choose 2 members of the bar to be bar of the county to be trustees. So they're in the process of making those selections, and they're requesting whether or not the pardon me, the chair would be the BoCC representative or another designee.
Sounds like by statute, the chair.
I think Commissioner Mejia was already tracking on this appointment.
So,
Is she good? I'm good with that.
confirmed.
I'll follow up on that, Kristen, now.
That's what happens, you are absent.
Yeah, sounds like a railroad.
Okay, well, that covers that. Very good. Let's go to,
We just want, just like to announce on the boards and commissions, somewhat related. The Washington State Association of Counties, WASAC, has chosen me to be a county representative to the Capital Projects Advisory Review Board at the state. So I just received that letter, and we'll see what happens. More work.
all right, very good. So that covers 5 and 6, then PIO check-ins, item 7.
Good morning, Commissioners. Megan Porter, Public Information Supervisor. I have no specific updates today, but I'm available for questions if you have any.
Questions for Megan?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. No questions. Let's go to item 8, legislative update.
The only update that I have for you is related to the Blake bill. Last week, you sent a letter to the county legislative representatives outlining at least the position. There's a bill dropped yesterday, the Senate bill, and I started reviewing the comparison between the House and the Senate, and it appears that it's moving forward on a way. One of the key elements, and this is the drug possession offense and penalties. Let me just read that to you. That's probably more the pivotal point. What the special session striker, that's what they're considering right now, and reads as follows: no in possession of counterfeit or controlled substances and non-use of public, in use in public places are gross misdemeanor crimes punishable by up to 180 days in jail and or $1,000 fine unless the defendant has at least 2 prior convictions for their crimes after July 1st, 2023, in which case the potential confinement increases to up to 364 days in jails in terms of a place and use. And there is other elements on this that I believe the Senate can probably take an action on this particular bill as soon as today, I believe. And then we'll be going through the reconciliation, but I believe this bill may be moving forward. So that's all I have on that one. So
I do have one question. I don't know, the prosecutor's here, maybe he might have an answer, but jurisdictions that have went ahead and created their own ordinances to cover this, does this knock those out of the playing, or does it supersede them?
I believe there's preempting language in the.
Oh, there is, okay.
bill. So if they enact it, it'll preempt it.
yeah, the state takes over. So more to come. Hopefully by next week, we'll hopefully have a piece of legislation that we can start working on.
Okay, so our next item is 9, and it's a follow-up on the City of Yelm proposed annexations.
This is a continuation of the conversation, commissioners. We presented to you 5 different pieces. The City of Yelm is planning to, has submitted a request to annex. Staff provided to you a couple of revisions last week in 2 particular properties, and including, you remember this memo with attachments of the maps. The intent of this one, and I believe that is the Vinsol Norris Road, is for you to consider working with the City of Yelm to revise the boundaries of their proposed annexation to not to have an island and have a regular shape. That's number 1. And the other one attached on the back side is to make sure they include the right of way of the road, and that is on, so we don't have a gap in what we maintain as road, then city road, and then we maintain as a county road. That's pretty much the 2 proposals from staff. I know staff has been working with the City of Yelm to make sure we don't get into controversy. And that is their proposal to the board. The other 3 annexations, the staff doesn't have any particular issues with it, and they just continue on. There is a May 22nd where we need to provide a perspective or take a position on this 5 annexations. And so we'll ask direction from the board based on the proposed approaches the staff has provided to you.
And then for reference, I'm not sure if the board has this. This is the.
It is included in the overall packet, but yeah.
Okay, good. Joshua Cummings, Community Planning and Economic Development Director, as we discussed last week, and the county manager summed it up great. These annexations, we've been working cooperatively with the City of Yelm. I appreciate Jeremy and Matt's great work in having this be a process-oriented transition. And we continue to be here to answer any questions you might have on these annexations. And Jeremy has returned, so it's great to have our expert transition annexation person.
Well, prove that vacation.
I know.
All right, if you'd like, I can run through the options for the 2 annexations that we're bringing to you today to ask for a decision on. They are outlined in the memorandum. Again, we have the Vansville Morris Road, which is a 15-acre property annexation, and then 9819 Grove Road. And first is the Vansville Morris Road. If you go to page 3 of the memo, I've got several maps in there outlining what those mean for the annexation. And the Vansville Morris Road is on the south end of the Yelm city limits right now within the urban growth area. So again, this is a 15-acre annexation. Option 1 outlined in the memo, of course, the board can choose to take no action. The annexation would move forward as is, with no further action by the boundary review board either, and the city would take final annexation action on it. It would exclude any associated rights of way that would normally be included with an annexation. The second option, should the board choose to do that, is to request review by the boundary review board, which does involve a public hearing by the boundary review board, of course, at county expense. This would be to increase the annexation area to take the property into the north, which on the map and the memo is outlined in blue. This will add approximately 11.25 acres to the annexation area. Option 3, which is what it sounds like is the city's preferred option on this one, or an option they're going to take, is to for the county to take no action, and then for the city to amend their legal description to include the associated Morris Road rights of way. And this is a preference of the Public Works Department, if I'm not mistaken. This does have the effect of creating an island right there of the one property we were talking about, including in a boundary review board action. But it does do a responsible exchange of the right-of-way that would be used to access one of the properties. And I don't know if Matt wants to add anything to that.
No, you summed it up very well.
Okay. So again, on that one, we have no action by the board. The annexation moves forward as is. The second option is for the board to request boundary review board action or hearing on it and possible action to include an additional 11.25 acres. And the third option is for the county to take no action, but the city to amend the legal description. The city indicated to an email to me this morning, this is Gary Cooper, they are going to rewrite the legal to include the right-of-way anyhow, which again is option 3. So that will leave an unincorporated county island, but then they'll take responsibility for that roadway. And that will take a burden off of our Public Works Department for that.
Can we just stop with that one?
Absolutely.
Commissioners, questions on this
I,
piece?
I don't believe I've got any questions on this. I've talked to, well, you folks and Yelm folks, and sounds like it's ready to roll.
I have some questions real quick on option 2. So that's the one that serves the board's guidance to not create islands, correct?
Yes.
And so if option 2 proceeds, do we have to invoke jurisdiction to go to the BRB?
Yes, we would have to invoke jurisdiction.
So the Board of County Commissioners, to get to option 2, needs to invoke jurisdiction, and the city of Yelm is aware of that, and would they contest that?
They provided no preference on that particular option today. I don't think they would contest it, but I'd have to go back and check with them again. Okay. But again, they expressed no preference on that today. So, and in past conversations.
And then how does, just to kind of pull back on the process a little bit, so we invoke jurisdiction, the county does, it comes out of the budget that's set aside for that dollar amount.
Mm-hmm.
What is the fees associated with invoking jurisdiction? What are
So we pay, I believe, a $50 fee. The county does, again, even though we're funding the BRB, it's kind of an irony, but we pay the BRB a $50 fee. The typical past cost for a public hearing is about $4,000 to $6,000 for an individual public hearing. The last one we had, again, was the one off of Marvin Way for the Lacey Rack, and that was a much, much larger annexation. I'm not certain how much process would be involved with this one, or what the boundary review board would really have to do outside of the typical action of reviewing the annexation, putting out public hearing notice, holding the public hearing, and then making a final decision on it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we have to invoke jurisdiction if we're in agreement with it?
Because currently, as put forward by the city of Yelm, it only annexes the 15-acre property. In order for the BRB to take action, or boundary review board to take action to expand the annexation area, they have to hold a public hearing and notify the public about the expansion. Yelm doesn't currently have a petition to annex from that property. If they did, I would imagine they would move forward through the typical annexation process.
Like the blue trapezoid on option 2.
Yeah.
If the person that owned that property said, I want to be annexed, then we wouldn't have to go to the BRB.
They're just taking the red, but it's gonna create an island in this. They can also take the blue. But if we want them to take the blue, we have to initiate this process. You said they don't seem to care one way or the other?
They didn't express a preference on that one way or the other.
But they want the red. I know I asked this last time, but it's like, what's their, is they're gonna do, I mean, there's a big flat part, there's a nice dense subdivision and then a big open parcel. Is that they're gonna expand residential?
With this one, it's going to go from a zoning of 1 unit per 5 acres to a zoning of R4, which I believe allows up to 4 units per acre. So we'll significantly densify with that. The way that Yelm zoning is currently set up, it stays 1 to 5 as a holding zone until it's annexed, and then it goes to a city zoning automatically.
And then it goes to the septic, the Yelm sewer system.
Yes.
I'm just curious why, kind of what Commissioner Mensah asked about, you know, which way is the best way to go then to make it work for everybody? And are there any, it almost sounded like, is there a owner of a property that's gonna object? Is that?
We haven't ascertained that, and I didn't hear from the city that they had spoken to the property owner either. So, the property owner would be notified in a public hearing process though. So they would be able to express their desire at the boundary review board.
So they might be forced into something? Is that a possibility?
If the county requests review and the BRB decides in that direction, then yes, they would be part of the annexation at that point. If the BRB decides that.
Can we reach out to Yelm and see if they've had interaction with that?
Yeah,
property?
I can reach out again to Yelm on that, absolutely.
And so if we did reach out to them and they said, I would be good with being annexed, they could submit a petition and we wouldn't have to go to the BRB.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a little more conversation that we could have.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like, it looks to me like what they're trying to annex, there's nobody living there, which makes it easy. And they're probably just said, why force somebody into Yelm, you know, if we don't even know if they want to be there, you know, if they're not worried about the island. But in theory, if we went ahead and said, well, we're not gonna allow you that island to be created. You're gonna have to take that, or we're gonna take, could Yum come back and say, that's cool, we'll come to agreement, and then we don't actually have to go through the process? Can we reach an agreement, or is it where we're gonna incur those costs just by having to, or is that where Josh said they could withdraw their petition and resubmit it or something?
So with that one, so if we requested boundary review board review, we still have to hold the public hearing. Whether or not the city objects to that request for review to include it is immaterial. They still have to hold a public
Because
hearing.
there's people living there.
Yeah, there's people living there. They'll still have to hold a public hearing. If the city receives a petition, which is what Josh was referencing before, Commissioner, then the city could go through that regular annexation process and we would not hold a BRB hearing. They would just annex it through the regular process.
I think there's a little more conversation that
Yeah.
we need to have with Yelm.
If the city received a petition from who?
That property owner, the blue
Yeah.
trapezoid.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
we don't know that would happen.
We don't know yet, exactly.
I mean, I
Into-
really
I'm
do
sorry.
think probably, you know, taking a chance here speaking for the board, but I think the board doesn't want the expense and delay and staff time and all that goes into this if we don't have to do that.
Exactly.
Is that kind of where we're at?
So then option 3 is where we end up at, and then
Hold on, let that play a little bit.
I'm interested in that. I'm also interested, like, with Lacey, it was a little more, there was more history way before I got here, and we worked out this policy so that we didn't have to fight about every single one, and we were really strict about the islands being a major principle by which we would oppose or not oppose. So I'm a little concerned about doing that with Lacey and then being with Yum, being like, oh, we don't care about that, go ahead and create an island. And then Lacey's gonna look back at us and going, why are you got, I just, if we're gonna be consistent and set principles, I think we have to follow them. And I'm trying to struggle to see why we wouldn't wanna include this. I mean, of course, a couple people there might not wanna be in the city of Yelm, but that's not really how we've been making decisions, right? We've been saying you can't create an island without a really good reason to do it. I don't see a good reason to leave this island.
And they are in the UGA, right?
Correct.
For you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, can you go back and straighten that out?
I mean, if they can remove their petition, right, and say, like, we remove it and then they resubmit it with the additions that we want where we wouldn't create islands. I mean, does that create other hoops for us or them? How does that work?
There's just a bunch of unknowns in that scenario. And I think, just to back up a little bit, we covered the cost on invocation of the annexation. We have it in the budget. It's what it's for. So we just wanted to make sure you had that information. It's not a hurdle for us. It's just a data point. So doing option 2 isn't gonna break the bank at $4,000 to $6,000. But there's some more information that we could look into in terms of the people that own that property. But option 2 does what the board has asked us to do in a consistent way, which is eliminate islands.
Either way, we have to have a public hearing, though, it sounds like, right?
The BRB, no you.
Your boundary review.
Oh,
Boundary
yeah,
review board.
okay.
So, but I think what the time constraint on this is the board needs to or the county needs to take an action before May 22nd next week. And that is really the premise of this conversation. Whether you decide to go with option 2 and they withdraw, that's a different step. The city of Yale may want to take. But at this point, you really need to provide a direction of what position I want to take on those proposals, because the time is coming.
I want to make it work for Yelm. That's kind of my goal here, because it's all going to be part of Yelm at some point in time.
So I think option 2 is what would fulfill both Yelm and the board's request for that property.
And then they can make a
And they
adjustment
yeah,
to
they
that
can make an
request.
adjustment, but I think the board and the county needs to take an affirmative action in providing comments. Because absent of you not providing comments, the annexations will go as presented.
Okay, well, I guess.
Let's go to the next one.
Matt, are we good with
Sounds
2?
good. Go for it, Jeremy.
So we have the exact same option orders we had last time. So option 1 again is the county takes no action. The property is annexed as is, and we leave associated rights of way in county jurisdiction. Option number 2 is the county requests boundary review board review, and we include an approximately 8-acre property, triangle of property to the north of the property subject to annexation on Grove Road. And then say option 3 is the county takes no action, and the city amends their legal description to add rights of way, which they can do. And that would add the right of way of Grove Road and Canal Road up to the current city park, which is within the city.
So again, option 2 fulfills both the board and Yelm's request. Option 3 fulfills the public works need to make sure the right of way is taken in.
So I don't understand option 2. I mean, what, it looks like.
Because that's not an island. It's
Go
not
for it.
creating an
It's
island.
the green is a park. Go for it, Jeremy.
Yeah, so if you look to the north of the subject property, the red triangle and the blue one, there's that green area. That's already within the city boundaries. They did a municipal purpose annexation some time ago to do an annexation out there. It's an extraterritorial one that's allowed under state law when it's city-owned property. And so adding in the triangle would connect the park to the city limits.
So they have the city of limits is fully encumbered by the county in that park. And so that triangle would make a connection to the park and the city.
Is
that
the
helpful?
is the triangle privately owned?
Private, yes, sir, it is. And it's my understanding that it might be used as part of the park based on conversations with the city of Yelm. And also the triangle is the city of Yelm's preference. They did express that as their preference.
They want the triangle.
They want the triangle, yes, sir.
Okay, because I was gonna say, this one I see differently. If they don't see a need to make that connection, I don't see the need to force it. But if they want the connection, I don't see a problem with that either. But
Yeah, in this one, the city's option is option 2.
why didn't they do it that way to begin with?
I don't believe they had petitions from those property owners at the time they went forward with the annexation of the 12-acre property. So, and I believe that they do have petition interest from 2 of the property owners within that triangle.
Thing from commissioners on that? So in order to do add the blue. Because do we have to now, does that mean we have to give comments and invoke jurisdiction of BRB?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because even though they are pretty much good with it.
Yes.
But it wouldn't come as a surprise to the city of Yelm.
That one they may be.
And this is the back end, the staff has worked with city of Yelm to let them know what the potential options will be. It seems to be they're expecting perhaps going with option 2 to invoke jurisdiction. And that will be at least our suggestion for you to consider option 2 on both proposals.
That's where I'm at.
And meets the time frame too.
Right.
Option 2, both proposals?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, commissioners.
Clear as mud.
Lots of process.
It is.
Thank you.
Okay, so then that takes us to commissioner items. And, all right, doing pretty good. Item 1 is Axon Video Resources.
We have the county prosecutor, John Tuntime, and the director of public defense, Patrick O'Connor. So let me briefly frame the conversation. And so, you know, the sheriff's office, as well as the local law enforcement jurisdictions have already implemented body cameras on the sheriff deputies as well as on the vehicles, patrol vehicles, they have video cameras. That by itself in the back end has created a little bit of a challenge for the prosecutor's office as well as the public defense when they need to retrieve the video evidence when they go through their case management on both ends. The result of that is creating a huge impact because downloading a video, it takes a lot of resources here in the county, space, and perhaps just the network itself. So here you will hear today a proposal as to how perhaps we could address this particular challenge they both offices have. And along the way, there's going to be a little bit of conversation of procurement process as well as funding and budget authority, which that has not been resolved, perhaps.
Okay, great. You want me to go ahead and frame it? Okay. So, yeah, that was a pretty good introduction by Romero. And let me go on to give you a little bit more high-level explanation of what we've found developing. And I will tell you, I'll just start off by saying we are at or near crisis right now in terms of our ability to manage the digital evidence that's coming in during our discovery process. So that's why when we came and talked to Robin and Romero, we expressed urgency to try to get this issue in front of you early so that you could be aware of what was going on, be thinking about it. And as we're starting to look for solutions and funding, you're already, you know, primed in terms of what the issue is. Late last year, I think it was, or early this year, as you heard, the county went live with body cams. The county sheriff's office in its selection process went with a vendor called GTAC. I don't know what that stands for, if it's an acronym or whatever, but just remember GTAC is the company. And they are fully live now. I'll just share with you that we had very little participation in the planning of that go live process with the body cams, and really not much notice in terms of when the go live was happening. But we had these assurances that, oh, there'll be a system worked out for you to be able to do this discovery process. At almost the same time, Olympia went live with their body cam program. Their body cams are through a company called Axon. And so those are the two companies that I'll be kind of referring to, GTAC and Axon. So they now are fully live with body camera digital evidence as well. Since that time, Lacey, the city of Lacey now is fully live with body cams. They use Axon. Tumwater has gone live. They don't have body cams, they do dash cams with GTAC, okay? The city of Yelm is, they're not live yet, but they're moving towards that. But I was also told the State Patrol will be going live later this year with Axon, okay? So we've got those two major systems. What we didn't realize, and I'm not sure anybody realized, was the how much digital evidence this was going to produce. So I don't know what your familiarity is with the language, but right now we're estimating the data that's coming in for discovery to be about 1 terabyte a week. And so it's just this huge volume of video. The way this works is, this is true for Axon and GTAC, and those body cams are, they record video, right? And then at the end of the shift or whatever, law enforcement goes through a process and that video gets uploaded into a cloud. Okay, so all that video resides in the cloud. For Axon, we have a free application that Axon gives us that gives us access to the Axon video in the cloud. We can't manipulate it, but we can get to it and see it. And we can provide defense with a link so that they also have access to it as well. Their version of the Axon software is not unlimited.
Not what?
It's not unlimited, and so they will start, what I mean by that is theirs will expire at some point and they won't have a license to Axon. The prosecutor and the defense are treated differently by the Axon company. GTAC has no such tool. So basically all we get from them is a link to the video. And we can see it, but we can't do anything with it. And when we provide it to defense, they have to physically download that video out of the cloud onto the county's server. Okay, so I'm gonna move forward a little bit because I don't wanna take too much time. So right now, we're kind of in a hodgepodge, right? Axon, we do one way, GTAC, we do another way. Bottom line is, if we don't have some other solution, we end up either starting to download a terabyte of data a week onto our county servers. Not to mention the staff power that we would need to do that, because it all takes time to download that stuff as well. And that potentially could be on both sides, prosecution versus defense version. So you could potentially have 2 terabytes a week coming into the county server. We could put it into the cloud through our case management system, which was not built to handle digital evidence like this. Take quite a bit more time, and they did a quick little estimate. At 2023 at current rate would cost us about $400,000 in storage space in the cloud.
Per year?
Per year,
Per year.
yeah. And actually increasing because you're buying storage space over time, right? So the cost continues to increase over time.
What's the number you said?
It's 377,000 and something. So that's when Patrick and I and our respective staff started talking together. It's like, this is not gonna work, right? This is not a sustainable way to do this. And started looking at what's out there, and turns out Axon has a software package that they built for prosecutors and defense lawyers to manage digital evidence. It exists solely in the cloud, so you don't actually buy the software. You're buying a license to the software that's in the cloud. But what it does is it gives us full ability to access, manipulate, and transmit the digital evidence over to defense. So we can do redactions in the cloud. We can, it has sophisticated artificial intelligence. So if there's a face in the video that we don't want to be included in the discovery, like a bystander or something, we can tell the software, we don't want this face in the video, and then it blurs it automatically throughout the video. As an example, or you can do redactions where you can cut pieces out if you need to. So it gives you the ability to manipulate it, but without ever having to download the software, because it all happens in the cloud. Then when we transmit it to defense, they get a link to it, and they can do the same thing, again, with the video all staying in the cloud. So that sounds really good for Axon, right? We don't ever have to download it. The Axon license includes unlimited storage. So we pay a flat fee, and it doesn't
Like how much?
vary on storage. Right now, our quote, yeah, I'll get to the quote. The quote for our license for both shops is $177,000 a year, basically, okay? But that doesn't help us for GTAC, right? Well, it turns out it does. The Axon product, the other thing you get when you buy the Axon product is the ability to upload video into the Axon cloud and use that as your storage. So we can take GTAC video, move it into the Axon cloud, and then we've got all the Axon tools available for all of that. We can also upload other things like surveillance video footage, so we can manage that within this cloud. Cell phone video, cell phone digital evidence can be uploaded and managed in that cloud. So none of that ends up having to sit on our servers. And I have no idea what it would cost, by the way, to buy storage capacity in terms of server space for a terabyte a week. I don't know what that would cost at all. I can't imagine it's cheap. So that looked like a good product. We dug into it further. And we had a demonstration. We had both staff from both offices look at it, and they've actually had ability to try some features of it, but we've all been able to see how it works. And what we found out in our research is that basically this is the only product on the market right now built as a digital evidence storage system for prosecutors and defense lawyers. And here's the other thing, it's on the state purchase contract. So the state's already bid it out. And I assume that's because the state patrol is going to Exxon itself. So that made sense to me when I heard that. So we have the ability to do this without going through any kind of competitive process. So that's what we feel like our best solution is to move forward with acquiring the Axon licenses. As I said, we would partner on this. So the license, we'd buy essentially they call it an enterprise license that covers all of your employees from your organization. So that'd be prosecution and defense together. And we get a package rate because of that and a 5% discount is what they say, because we're buying it as an enterprise license. The unanswered question is, how do we pay for it? We're at about 177,000 was the proposal, as I recall reading. So fill in, please, if I missed anything or.
Well, I'll just touch on a couple of things. I know there's questions and I know Robin's abreast of this issue and project. We brought this issue to the ITC subcommittee at the end of last month and had some ongoing conversations with Robin and her team about the issues on whether or not we would need to take the next steps on doing a request for proposals for this. And I'll let Robin speak to that because she and her team sent out an advisory opinion on that. You know, I just want to piggyback on what John mentioned in case there's any concerns about our due diligence in trying to anticipate this issue. I was a part of no conversations with the City of Olympia, City of Lacey on their acquisition and implementation of body cams. John touched upon those communications with the Sheriff's Office. I did reach out as they came before this board pursuing body cam footage. I think it was a missed opportunity to really capture the downstream impacts on the primary users of all these systems, which are prosecuting attorney's office and the public defender's office from our perspectives. I can tell you that we've done our best to manage this data at a great consternation and cost to staff. It is incredibly time consuming. I'll give you a quick example. I was reviewing a juvenile case the other day, a very garden variety juvenile case that had 44 videos. So there were 6 or 7 responding officers and about 30 hours worth of video footage just from one arrest. And so you multiply that times literally hundreds of cases every month, you can start to get a sense of the scale of the issues that we're trying to manage. Digital evidence is the present and the future of criminal justice. It's only going to expand into areas that we can't even contemplate just yet. So we're doing the best we can. I would echo John's description as we are kind of in a crisis mode, just managing the data with the systems we have now. So we're trying to find a solution. I know I've addressed this issue a little bit here and there with the board, that I anticipate this being an ongoing issue. So I'll turn it over for questions or next steps.
Yeah. Right now, it's pretty much tape and thread. We've got one way of doing it with Axon, one way of doing it with GTAC. Neither are working very well, but.
And just a couple more points, you know, these are obviously legal obligations, right? They're obligations that the state obviously get their evidence and then their obligation to provide it to defense. We have retention obligations as well. So doing what we're doing now is a Band-Aid approach while we're trying to manage our legal obligations in our respective roles, which include retention schedules. And this particular opportunity really, you know, the storage is indefinite. So we're not paying for additional retention schedules in the bid, but Robin, you probably, I'm sure, have some comments, but this is where we're at.
Commissioner Edwards
You're all
had,
looking at me.
no, well, if you don't have anything, Commissioner Edwards had his hand first, and then we'll go.
Is this mandated by the legislature that we have this recording concept in place?
It's not, John, can you correct me if I'm wrong, it's not mandated by any RCW. The only thing that are, the laws that I'm familiar with that are mandated are policies for law enforcement and jurisdictions that adopt body cameras. There's policies.
So it's not like an unfunded mandate?
No.
Yeah, no, not really. The legislature's been kind of cautious to mandate law enforcement because smaller agencies, you know, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, they'd have to fund
much different impact.
And WSP is using the same as the sheriff's office?
Oh, the same as Olympia and Lacey. The Axon system is my understanding.
Okay, which one is the sheriff's office using?
GTAC.
Similar to Tumwater.
Right, and Tumwater is using GTAC.
Correct.
But Axon is the only thing that works. And that's what the state has?
So Axon, well, you know, GTAC is a body cam system, but it doesn't provide anything in terms of prosecution or defense.
No
Yeah,
support.
Axon is the one that has the product that works for us.
Why don't you just mandate that, you know, do it my way or go the other way and pay for it? I don't know, why would we have to, it sounds like we'd only have to do Tumwater and the sheriff's. We wouldn't have to do, but Tumwater could pay their own, couldn't they? And we'd have to pay for the sheriff to do that switch from the one to the other?
So if I'm not gonna speak for the sheriff in terms of what it would take for them to move to Axon. But that doesn't really change, see, the benefit of us moving to the Axon product is that we can move the GTAC videos right into Axon. So at that point, it doesn't matter who's on what system because we can manage it all in Axon. Does that make sense? So it wouldn't save anything to move the sheriff to Axon.
So this is a cost of approximately $177,000. The bid for the 5-year contract is $825,000. That would serve prosecutor and public defense office. And it's my understanding that they are currently on a trial product and that trial expires very soon.
And Robin, that's defense, just to be clear.
Right.
Defense expires. Ours doesn't expire, but it's limited.
It's limited
tools.
access,
Yeah.
right, so there's a time crunch here. The internal auditor had a conversation with Heidi Prohoda. This came to the ITC subcommittee, and the subcommittee recommended going out for a bid. However, after further conversations, it's our understanding that the prosecutor's office and possibly public defense went through a process to identify their requirements, the system requirements. The system meets that. It's on a state contract. So to expedite purchase, should the board approve the purchase, we would go with the state contract. So purchasing policy satisfied, it's a matter of the money.
$177,000 per year.
For the first year, that's right. And then, the bid is 153,000, 159,000, 165,000, and 172,000 in each of the successive 4 years.
The first year is a little bit more, I understand, because there's a initial
That's right.
upfront
It's
fee
the
that's part of that.
30,000 for
It drops down a
implementation.
little bit and then it escalates a little bit as your storage
So
capacity.
that's the bid. Okay.
Just on that point, if the board were to say, we have no choice, we have to have this, is the usage like kind of co-equal, like in terms of allocating it to your, that cost to your two departments? Is it kind of like a 50-50 deal? You're both using it in equal measure? It's what it sounds like to me.
Close to
where
equal.
It'd basically be appropriate to sort of split that cost between your budgets, if trying to find a way to.
Yeah,
get it paid.
see, I think ultimately, going into budget year next year, we would be including it into our respective budgets unless somehow IT wanted to put it into some other pay system. That would be separate.
There are no other pay
Other
systems.
internal rates will not apply because it's only the
It's
two
just
of
the
you.
two.
Right.
So,
It's gonna be straight out of the general fund.
general fund.
Commissioner McGee.
I guess. I'm just, my question is, why isn't this with the budget amendment? I mean, it's an off-cycle, this seems like an off-cycle request to me.
That similar conversations that we had,
My
when,
office did not receive this request until after the budget amendments.
So if there's been a trial run, right, and both office and department knew that the trial run was going to expire coming up soon.
I didn't receive a request, or I would have included it.
Well, I'll talk from my perspective. So this went live, as I said, right around the first of the year, maybe a little bit before the end of the year. And we started trying to work to figure out how to manage this, right? And then Olympia went live. And as it built up, we realized that we didn't have a system that we could do. So we started talking and looking at the market. What's out there? What can we do to manage this? At the same time, we're trying to create our Band-Aids to keep the system literally up and running. The tape and the thread is going up like crazy. We only identified the Axon product in like March or April when we started looking at it. We went through the process of, what do we need? Prosecution, defense, we're working together on this. How does it work? What do we need? Will it work for us? How does it work with GTAC? We did all that work ahead of time. So then we brought it and said, we need this product, where do we go? And the advice was ITC, you start with ITC. It's on the state contract, so we were anticipating from the beginning, looking at purchasing this from the state contract. So we went to ITC meeting. That was, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, while I was out. And that's when the RFP process came in, so we had to stop and step back for a minute and say, do we need to do an RFP? Bottom line is, the budget process had come and gone by the time we even realized this was gonna be, that we would need funding for this product. That's my perspective.
You made mention that other cell video, whatever, could be utilized. How does this affect the jail? Because like from a liability standpoint, I think this would be an issue with what goes on in the jail, managing those, especially if there's a criminal case that comes out of the jail. So you didn't mention anything about the jail. How does
Yeah.
it fit?
It's not something I thought about. If there's jail surveillance video that is captured as evidence of some kind of crime. So for instance, somebody commits a crime in the jail, assault or something like that, and there's video evidence of that that's taken and put into evidence, then we would use this system for that, to manage that discovery as well. So the idea is all video discovery that we get from whatever source gets managed within this system.
You couldn't, I mean, is there any chance, I don't know what we spent, we got a grant, I think, to do the sheriff's office thing, right? Didn't we get a grant for that?
For the body cams?
Yeah, the body cams and all that
There was an
stuff.
allocation from the state that will use a portion of that to purchase. No, it was just to purchase the equipment.
Right, just the equipment, not all the licensing and all the other stuff. But are we locked in?
But you also allocated to this, two staff, new staff members to the sheriff's office to manage the video.
Yeah, but it sounds like maybe that's not adequate, I don't know. All I'm asking is, are we locked in to where we can't get out of that? We used a grant for $1 million or whatever it was to purchase the equipment, and now we're saying, hey, this isn't gonna work. Are we locked in? We gotta use it, or can we just say,
I
well, we're
don't-
not gonna use that?
I don't have an answer to that.
Suggesting that we not use body cameras?
To a degree, unless we get something else, yes, I am. I'm saying, how can we cover the expense here? Why couldn't we just say, we're only gonna do the one that the prosecutor and defense can utilize?
I think the issue is, how do you do that, right? I mean, you'd have to basically somehow mandate to the sheriff to restrict or eliminate their use of body cams, but we don't have any control over the cities in that regard.
Just tell them you're not gonna use it, you don't have anything for it, they can pay for all the upgrade it would take to fix it.
Unfortunately, what I don't have is the authority to say, we're not gonna use your evidence.
Can't they manage it and bring it forward on a thumb drive or something and say, here's what we got?
Oh, but that's the same problem. They bring it in on a thumb drive.
Make two thumb drives, get that one.
It doesn't solve our issue, because we're still having to manage it on the local servers and the time, and it really doesn't. In fact, using the cloud is actually far more efficient than trying to do things on thumb drives.
You love the cloud,
So,
right?
so we have a related issue that you've not heard about yet, and that is capacity to store all of the video that's being captured on the body cameras. IT is working on a solution for storage capacity, but this is it's a related but a completely different issue for these gentlemen in their offices to have the ability to use that in the legal process. So it's not a matter of, do we have the video, can we get it? It's, can it be used during the process?
Has it been contaminated?
All of those things.
County manager has your hand up as well.
Aside from this conversation, I think procedurally presents a little bit of interesting steps related to a budget amendment. Because right now, even if the board agrees on this approach, there is no budget authority. The budget amendment has already passed. And in fact, we are publishing the decisions you have made during the budget amendment process.
It's already been published.
It's published, and you cannot change that when you make a final decision based on that. And those are the.
Even when a new emergency shows up, huh?
The option is whether you go through another budget amendment to include this, and again, they ended up the impact on the general fund. And even if you exercise another budget amendment process, because I believe you do have that authority to amend the budget as you see fit, it's gonna take another
A minimum of 4 weeks.
4 weeks.
Is
So it's
there
nothing
any-
that can be done so quickly.
Is there any reason?
So, one of the things, as far as paying for it, one of the things that you received in the budget amendment consideration was the latest forecast with a projection by every office and department of how much at this point in time they intend to revert at the end of the year. And all due respect, what your offices reported was the prosecuting attorney at this time estimates 150,000 in reversion, and public defense is estimating 129,000 in reversion. If we split the cost in half for the first year and you each office absorbed half, it looks like you have sufficient money in your budget to absorb the first year cost. And then we would build the cost for the next 4 years into the future budget.
And if we go through that process, commissioners, if you approve a 5-year contract, you're committing. You are committing for the next 4 years. So I just want to make sure that that is clear for you. We can resolve the issue of the expenditures for the first year, that by signing the 5-year contract or authorizing signing the 5-year contract, you're committed for the next 4.
I don't know what the budget impact is going to be. Like, for me, it's, I need to see your chart, Robin. Like, I need to see what the actual budget impact is going to be for the next 4 years. And it's going to be an ongoing cost, right? It's not just gonna be for the 5 years. It's gonna be.
You're
moving
committing
forward.
unless there's different software 5 years from now.
So
This is-
I would like to see a budget impact on this.
It's not to exceed 170,000 a year, so it won't go. The bid that we currently have, the only bid that went over 170,000 was the first year, right? You have the numbers in front of you.
The first year is 177, and then it starts out, the 5th year is 172. I mean,
Oh, okay.
and then it escalates, the bid says that they include a 4-year, 4% inflationary cost every year.
But
That's
I
built
think it's
into it.
regardless of 150 or 174,000, Commissioner Mejia is asking, what is the impact on the long term? Because this is not just a one time. And I believe that is a valid question to see what the impact will be, because as soon as the board commits to this, it's gonna take capacity out of potential decisions they will make during the biennial budget on their requests. And that is really the balance the board may consider. So my
It is-
suggestion,
I can certainly, I don't know that I could pull up the model on the fly, but I will say that it's 177,000 that is not available every year for other purposes. It becomes a priority.
by the way, I have these items at discussion, not as a decision today.
Yeah, and I'm not asking, we weren't
So-
asking for a decision.
So this is a discussion, so I don't want to make sure the
Yeah,
board.
maybe we should just, I think we understand the issue.
And maybe we can bring next week, Robin, see what the impact is,
I
work
will
with.
not be here next week.
Okay.
I'll be GFOA, but I can certainly bring it the week after.
Does that give us enough time?
Fire.
We've gotten an extension, I think, for the next 3 months.
Okay, so then,
So-
But I appreciate it, but the board needs to be probably mindful.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you coming today to bring this issue. I understand this just came up.
Yeah, just to your
Yeah,
your
no,
question,
this is great.
Commissioner Mejia, I mean,
This is good to hear, frankly, because it's, it seems a good way around.
This escalated way faster than anybody ever foresaw.
I mean, we made a commitment to the sheriff's office, we made a commitment to, in the expenditure of the grant money that we got. We made a commitment to the community, and
So we'll bring that May 30th.
no, I mean, I just want you to know, and I'd speak for John, I think, on this too, is we would have brought you a very half-baked proposal at the First Amendment opportunity. I had no notice in the city of Olympia that they were going live. We set a meeting in February with the city of Lacey and the city of Olympia, only for them to announce at that meeting that they were going live with body cams in the following weeks. Complete news to me. And I had reached out previously to the sheriff's office, so I just want you to know that, that opportunity passed us by, so to speak, because we really weren't in any position to be able to make a good business case.
Can we charge a percentage to the cities for this program? I mean,
Well, you could try.
well, I mean, we're having to go the extra, you know, probably would have been in the same situation kind of with our own sheriff's office, right? But we're having to go that extra step as well. And I mean, for me, it seems fair that, you know, for whatever caseload we're handling from each of these jurisdictions, that they get charged a percentage of this program. I mean,
We could certainly send them a bill, at which point they could say, thanks, but we're not paying.
Well, I don't-
mean,
I
we've
don't
got
even-
no way to make them pay.
you know, I don't think we should just send them a bill. I think we should at least engage in these conversations of like, we're going to have to pay $177,000 a year because of this, you know, additional step that we have to take. And, you know, it's falling on just Thurston County, right? And I just don't.
So, City of Olympia prosecutes their own cases, don't they?
Misdemeanor.
Misdemeanor only.
Not felonies.
Felonies are, yeah.
No, this is different.
Madam
Yeah,
Chair,
that's what
maybe
I-
this will be a good item up for discussion on the upcoming meeting with the mayors and the chair.
Yeah.
I mean, is the board okay with that, at least to have that conversation with
yeah.
the other jurisdictions?
And let me say, if it's helpful for Patrick and or I to come and talk to the whole group about what the impact is on us, I'm just saying, we're there for you, whatever you
100%.
need,
100%.
one way or the other.
Does that
So-
sound?
If you were to not get software, what would you do?
Lose more people?
Yeah, the only thing, the issue,
Be honest.
I'd have to come back and ask for the staff time to be able to do all the downloading. And then we'd have to cross that bridge of where are we gonna store all this stuff and what's it gonna cost, right? I know any prosecutor, we already kind of roughed that number out, and I said that it's not sustainable to do it in e-prosecutor because the storage cost is so high.
When you said that 400 or 370,000, the first year of storage, but then the next year of storage, you gotta pay the 430 and the next.
If we did that in
amount
our
and the next
existing
amount.
system.
Yeah, so I mean, it's gonna exponentially be millions in a few years.
That's why we've decided we can't do this in e-prosecutor.
Yeah, so
It's just
that's not an
financially
option.
It's not
feasible.
cost effective.
Yeah.
But Robin brings a good question. Aside from the consequences of you losing people, I mean, that's a consequence, not an action. Is what will you do if you don't have access? I mean, how you do your business to prosecute and defend if you don't have this tool?
Well, they have to provide us the access to the video, right? It's because it's evidence, right? The issue is when we bring it in, how do we bring it in? Do we put it on the county servers and then we just start storing it that way? But then then we have to buy the software ultimately to be able to do the, you know, the redactions and processing and so forth. And staff time to do all that work. Or do we put it into SharePoint and put it into the county's cloud? I don't know what storage costs for SharePoint is. And we can't do it in e-prosecutor. So the issue is not about, they have to provide it to us. There's no choice, right? It's evidence of a crime, they have to provide it. And then I have to take it. I can't not take evidence of a
How
crime.
you manage that
Yep.
behind the scenes, okay?
Yep, and I have to give it
Mary
to
has to deliver it.
defense.
And then we have to then we pick it up and we have to download it and we have to store it. So it's double the cost. So to your point too.
Our new director from IT, Sherry, is she in the middle of all this?
She's aware of the issue.
No, this sounds like a nightmare.
That's why we're here.
Having conversations, both of you, I knew there was comment, not necessarily this action, but the comment in terms of the impact of the storage. And Sherry and Robin have been working as to how we manage it. This has become a little bit faster than I was expecting. But
faster than I think we all are expecting. That's the issue.
It's been a surprise to all of us.
So on June 30th, I'll bring this item back again. Hopefully that time will give you the opportunity.
May 30th.
May 30th, so did I say June 30th?
You said June.
Sorry, May 30th. And then see where it goes at that point. And hopefully we'll find a strategy.
And if we can provide any further information, just ask. We'll get it to you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Let's move forward to item 10.2, Black Lake SUD request.
Commissioners, you received, thank you. You received a request, an interesting request from Mr. Gary Klein. He's the president of Clean Black Lake Alliance. This is not associated with the Black Lake Special Use District, as I understand it. So let me read just a brief of their proposal. It said, to initiate our proposed cooperative effort, we ask that you appoint one or more staff members from the county to meet regularly with our organization to develop and implement pilot projects for meaningful intercepting and permanently removing the identified excess growth, simulated nutrients that are causing the lake problems. So that's in paragraph 1, 2, 3, paragraph 4, paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at the bottom of the page, no 1. And it states that beyond the remedial measures suggested and implied above the request, we believe Black Lake is overdue for a comprehensive management under establishment of a formal lake management district. And that becomes, that you're not considering establishing a lake management district on Black Lake. That goes back to the same issues that we dealt a couple of years ago, I believe with the same group. They were requesting the board to dissolve the special district of Black Lake and for you to implement, form a lake management district. I just want to bring this to your attention. My recommendation will be if they have any particular matters related to the management of the Black Lake, they should approach the special use district.
Special district.
The special district, yeah. That will be my recommendation.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
My recommendation is to respond to Mr. Klein and ask him to bring those matters to the Black Lake Special District.
Commissioner Edwards?
I have to say, I wish there was a way that we could do better for our lakes, all of our lakes. I know money, a big piece of it, but there's a rub between those two groups, I think, right? Seems like. But short of creating a lake management district, what would it hurt? I don't know about assigning somebody that they have to go to it, but why wouldn't it be beneficial for one of our staff people to at least communicate with these folks and find out what kind of ideas they have? And I hate to leave a group out there that's obviously trying to do good work and not try to accommodate them. I don't know. I mean, it's pie in the sky, I guess, but.
Is money and resources. What staff you like to assign, how you gonna pay for it?
This to me is, there's a predicate question of the jurisdiction of the special district. I mean, how do we just start working with, they've got a program, they're taxing themselves, they've elected leaders. How do we just form a side alliance with a side group and interfere with the work program of the special district? I don't think we can do that.
Well, I'd like to.
So I think implicit in this request is back to their proposal that we dissolve the special, they're not saying it, they're not laying it out like they did before where they petitioned for the dissolution, but it's implicit here to me to do what they're asking. We'd have to dissolve the special district, form a lake management district or not, and start working with the independent authority over, we can't be at cross purposes with an independently elected Black Lake Special District Commission.
And you may recall, went back to the whole circle, that you couldn't even dissolve the blacklist special district because they have a financial obligation already.
Yeah.
We could suspend them and
So
take
you
it
can suspend
over.
it for a period of time for what purpose?
Taxpayer expenditures, I suppose.
Commissioner Mejia?
I don't have an answer. I just want to do better.
Well, it feels like they have already been talking with some of our staff and from the letter, and I don't want to go through another public hearing. Again, that was absolutely rough, and I mean, right now, there's going to be a special election, is it this year or next year for
The Black Lake,
the Black
I
Lake?
think it's this year, they're gonna be electing some officers.
So
Oh, it's for the leadership
for the
positions?
leadership position, we appointed someone who said they would just serve until
Next
the next election.
So that's my recommendation, with your concurrence, I will respond back, very simple, the board has discussed your request, and the board recommends for you to address the
Lost our Zoom.
to bring these matters to the Black Lake Special District. And just leave it like that. But you're right, it's the same that you dealt with 2 years ago with the same group. But be prepared, as soon as I respond, we'll get another series of.
Okay, let's look at item 3, security on county facilities.
This is gonna be nothing for you to do, or we request at this point, is just to maybe field your how you think about this. We have received a lot of feedback from staff, mainly at the courthouse campus. There's a staff that have been facing individuals, somewhat harassment and that sort of thing. And with your concurrence is to see if we can look at the option of bringing in private security to just patrol, drive around some of the county facilities. Because I think presence may be a deterrent. Not asking to do this, I don't know how much could cost, but if you're okay, we can probably bring back a proposal. We'd just like to be responsive to some of the comments we received from staff about potential safety issues.
I just want to let the board know, I've also received a lot of comments on this. I know that I've been asking both Ramiro and Robin about, what can we do? I know that there's been a lot of concerns from staff about feeling unsafe, about their vehicles being unsafe. And so I would like to see, I'm concerned about the cost, but I would like to see what options are available, if any, and if it's something that we can afford, but I at least think it's worthwhile to take a look at.
So just to get an initial ballpark estimate, Jason reached out to one of the local companies that does security patrol. This building had security before we moved in. That, one of those drive-by and they check and make sure everything looks fine. To do that twice a day, and by the way, the Capitol campus is not the only building where we've had issues. So we looked at what would it cost to do 2 patrols a day at the courthouse campus, the FJC, the coroner, Lilly Road, Public Health, and this building. And that would cost roughly $60,000 a year to have that type of security patrols in these buildings. But the reports, specifically the reports that I'm getting from the campus, is that there are people who are following employees to or from their cars, harassing them, and creating an unsafe environment. And it's escalated. So we've also had problems with vandalism of both personal and county vehicles at our buildings recently that have gone up. So I do feel like we need to do something. And this is just to introduce the topic to you.
No decisions today, Commissioners.
I have to say that I've been over, there's quite a homeless camp at the far end of that parking lot.
Sure, there is, and it's growing.
And it runs from there all the way down to the bathrooms, set up in different places in there. What about Olympia? Does Olympia feel they don't have any obligation for employees that are being bothered? I mean, why can't we put in an ongoing call to the Olympia Police Department? It's in Olympia.
So we have advised staff to call 911, and most recently it was a notice that we received just a few days ago from Frankie. It must have been at the end of last week from Frankie Peters, talking about harassment, and we told him call 911. And the sheriff, one of the sheriff's sergeants said that they will have officers who are driving marked sheriff vehicles. When they are on campus, they will park in conspicuous places in the parking lots there to try to be a deterrent. We are checking the lighting and ensuring that all of the lighting that the county has in that area is at the maximum brightness, if you will, we're taking all the steps that we can think of. We're contracting for a trainer to come at the end of August to provide personal safety training and tactics to staff. But the fact remains that they're getting harassed, and we're having vandalism of our vehicles, and we have reached out to Keely, so perhaps you would like to.
And Keely has been visiting this camp.
Who's this?
Keely.
Oh, yeah, okay.
In coordination with Olympia. And as you know, unfortunately, we cannot just sweep the camp without giving them an option. And that is the difficulty that we have. What we need to make sure is that we take the necessary step not to have grown to what it is. And that's what we can perhaps control.
I'm gonna just say this, nobody likes to hear me say this. This problem is gonna continue to grow until we do something to nip it in the bud. Because these people, the main problem people, are from elsewhere. And I don't care what the point in time count says, 16% are from elsewhere or whatever. They've been told by the social workers, tell people you're from this area. Don't tell them you're from Kansas City. Nobody wants to hear that. If you're here to get help. And so I've been over there about 5 times now, just circling through, just looking things over. I think we can do something. We can make life damn uncomfortable for those people that are choosing to harass our people and want to live in that whole encampment down there. Whether we end up arresting people for littering, whatever it might be, you can make life uncomfortable for them, and they'll go somewhere else. Now, I know I've kind of got the hard attitude here about this, but there's only so much room in the lifeboat, and it is becoming overloaded. And so for the staff over there that I've talked to, for the managers, and I've talked to 3 or 4 of them now, I've told them, well, don't endanger your employees by having them park over by that knothead camp over there. Have them park right there in the parking area at the courthouse campus, right out front, because we need to protect those people. And I don't care if we've got an ordinance or a plan or whatever, we need to do something to help them out. And that something could be parking there. And There's nobody gonna give them any grief about it. I'll give them a business card to put in their dash or whatever, and I'll go to court if somebody wants to take them to court for illegal parking or something. That's the damnedest thing I've ever seen, that we're putting the
Commissioner,
screws
we-
to our own
we-
employees.
We just had a meeting with all the stakeholders on the parking assignments at the courthouse. And we have come to a good agreement. And we're gonna be moving most of the employee parking closer to the courthouse campus.
Yeah.
That is the approach, and there's an agreement with all the stakeholders. So we have been working on the parking assignments, Commissioner.
But we do still need to have, even though many of us have moved off the hill, we do still need to have parking available for people who are doing business at the courthouse.
Well, one thing about
So-
it, they're doing business in the daytime, in the middle of the daytime when they come in. I still think there's enough parking up there.
Not when jurors are there. Jurors
Not
are
when
coming.
jurors are
right.
coming.
Jurors come in pretty, like, earlier than,
Boy, I hope to heck we don't have jurors getting their cars vandalized, or we're not gonna have anybody on the jury pretty quick.
So the parking layout, we have an agreement with the stakeholders, balances all that.
I'm not gonna say I told you so, I'm gonna forget it for right now, but I guess we'll never get out of here if we keep kicking this cat down the road. It's pretty serious stuff, and we're only gonna know how serious it is when there's a serious incident. Then we find out that guy's from Kansas City that raped that employee, or whatever it is. So, we got more to come. It's a problem, and we better do something about it. And prioritizing service to those folks is a big piece of it, or denying service. So, anyway, I'll get off my high horse for that.
I guess my only reaction is I don't see how in the courthouse campus in particular, with the sheriff's office embedded in it, at least for now, sheriff's vehicles conspicuously parked around, which they almost always are. I don't see how a drive-by twice a day by some unmarked security firm is gonna enhance security. That just doesn't seem to me to be the right.
I wanna echo
Correct
marked or
strategy.
unmarked, either one isn't gonna make any difference twice a day.
So, I mean, I definitely want to look for solutions, but I'm not sure I'm convinced that's the solution. But anyway, let's move on. We've got we got commissioner items, which I don't think we're gonna have time for. So can we go to executive session? We don't have a burning fire that has to be, okay. Let's go to our last item for the morning, which is an executive session under RCW 4230-1101I to discuss with legal counsel representing the agency litigation.
Hey, Yord.
Potential litigation to which the agency,
Sign out there.
the governing body, or a member acting in an official capacity is or likely to become a party. This connects to Rogers RV Park. It's scheduled for 20 minutes. Commissioner's action may follow. Okay, it's 12:57. We're out of executive session. No commissioner action is going to follow, and we are adjourned for today's agenda setting session back at 2 p.m.